start our meeting. We have 3 of our commissioners in attendance. So first up, it's a work session for the Hood River County Commission. It's May 17th, 2021. First up is COVID-19 update. Darren, I see you're on Trish. Yeah, Trish is here too. So Trish, you're on.
Good afternoon. So, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'll just kind of go over our statistics. So our pandemic total of positive cases, known positive cases is 1194 today. Our hospitalizations are 44. And we've had 31 deaths, and that is a correct number. I know we had we had dropped it back down to 30, but now we really are at 31. As of today, we just got a report from OHA. We are Hood River County is 67% vaccinated for age 18 and up. That's as of today. There's 13,796 people with at least 1 dose in the county. We did also get our county metrics today. And if this were a movement week, we would be able to move to low risk because of our numbers. We've had 29 cases in the past 2 weeks at 4.7% positivity. Last week was our movement week, so we are not moving. Statewide, the state did not meet their hospitalization metric. They've had a daily peak of 351 hospitalizations statewide. So that does not meet their criteria for under 300 hospitalizations. I did submit our application to move to low risk permanently yesterday or Friday. Yesterday, I did receive a request from Oregon Health Authority for some additional information, which I provided this morning. And we should know by tomorrow if that application is accepted or not. So far, Hood River County has administered about 6,300 doses of COVID vaccine. We do have a vaccine clinic scheduled for Thursday at River of Life. This is a second dose Moderna vaccine clinic, but we are also inviting the public to come in for their first dose, just to walk in without an appointment. And we'll be there from 9:15 to 4:15 in the afternoon. Next Tuesday on the 25th, we're doing an evening Johnson & Johnson vaccine walk-in clinic at the health department from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then on Thursday, the 27th, we'll do another 9 a.m. to noon walk-in clinic. So we're just plugging along. We are accepting Pfizer vaccine for Region 6 for Hood River, Wasco, Sherman, and Gillum counties, and also Wheeler County. We're also providing them with some Pfizer vaccine. We've got plenty of vaccine on hand for anybody who wants them. So we've got Moderna vaccine, we've got Johnson & Johnson, and we've got Pfizer vaccine. And we're making that available to all of our partnering providers. Does anybody have any questions?
Arthur?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Trish. If the state accepts the letter that you submitted, when would those changes take effect?
It would be the 21st. This Friday. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It would take effect.
You described 3 clinics And I tried to write them down quickly, but I didn't get the first one. Could you repeat what the first clinic was?
The first one is this Thursday, and it's all day from 9:15 to 4:15. It's for second dose Moderna, or if anybody wants to just walk in for their first dose, then they're welcome to come in, and that's at the River of Life Assembly.
Okay, and then at the same time, 9 to noon on Thursday, there's a J&J clinic, as we're doing every week at the health department. Is that correct?
Correct. We're not doing that this Thursday. We're foregoing that for the big clinic, but then the following Thursday we'll have the J&J clinic.
Okay,
And
good.
we're also having the Tuesday, the 25th evening J&J clinic from 4 to 7.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what I missed. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions for Trish?
I just was
Yeah, I've got
going to
one
add- Go ahead.
regarding the, I guess, our strategy with respect to continued vaccinations. It seems like on the last report I saw, the number had dropped off considerably over the last week. And I'm wondering if there's any discussion about changing our strategy from inviting people to going out and actively trying to seek those people so that we can put a needle on somebody's arm.
Yeah, we have some plans in the works. And Darren and I actually attended a meeting today around use of a mobile vaccination clinic that would be provided by Oregon Health Authority for use for the better part of 6 weeks. We're not certain that that would be the best fit for us. We're going to meet with Mimi McDonald at North Central Public Health to talk to them about sharing this resource. It comes with a big commitment on our part, a lot of staffing requirements, a lot of logistics, and we would need to provide a medical director to oversight, which isn't impossible, but they're used to doing big clinics, and we think our days of doing big clinics are pretty much expended. We do have Heart of Hospice, which has been willing to go out and do small on-site and in-home clinics, and we're continuing to strategize and figure out the best places. We know we want to get down to Cascade Locks soon, and Darren may be able to update you a little more on what our specific plans are with that.
Yeah, I can add to that. We do have a clinic, not through the health department, but One Community Health will be going to Cascade Locks in the middle of June to do a clinic, and they're opening it up to the public too, so we can help with messaging and getting the word out for that. But I think, as Trish mentioned, what we thought would be a mobile unit, the meeting today, it's really a fixed, sits in one spot for several weeks type clinic, but it does have the opportunity. They have shoot off vans that they can use. And so that was really the part that piqued our interest the most, in that I agree. I think having people come is one thing, but that's not accessible to everyone. And so if we could identify a neighborhood model where if you can get your 10 friends together or your 10 neighbors, we can do that on a Monday and then the next neighborhood on a Tuesday or something like that. So I think that was the piece that Trish and I really thought would be a good fit for where we're at. But as far as the mobile clinic, it would be very useful for the workers that are coming into the region, we think. So it could be that we could use it for both methods. And I think that could work really well.
That was my next question. What are the plans for the influx of labor from outside of the area coming in?
So that was the reasoning behind OHA giving this unit to our area for 6 weeks. It's intended for half of the 6 weeks to be over in Wasco County to start with the cherry season over there, and then end the 6 weeks here in Hood River County to hopefully follow some of the folks that are coming into the area. There's also the possibility, if we can identify an orchard or a farm that's large enough for this unit, that we could do an on-site clinic for some of the days. Unfortunately, though, it seems like it needs quite a bit of space. I think, Trish, the minimum is like 4,000 square feet.
Yeah. 3,500 square feet. And it takes about a whole day to tear it down and set it up. And so you lose a day of vaccination services if you decide to move it. So it is pretty labor intensive, but they've been using it in Hermiston. They've been trying it out there, and it's worked well for them. Though they didn't see the numbers that they were hoping to see either. I mean, it's throughout the state, the numbers have really gone down the last 2 weeks. So.
And I think that's our hope with meeting with North Central and Dr. McDonald, is that we could be really, really strategic about the timing and the placement of the unit, and in hopes of not having to tear it down, put it back up many times throughout a week, but just ask the community or ask people, farm owners or orchardists, where it might be most useful.
Right. And One Community Health is continuing with their mission, to take care of the agricultural employees, and that is something that they're working hard on in coordination with some farms. And we had made the commitment that if they would do 1 weekend a month, we would do 1 weekend a month if we needed to. And so we'll continue coordinating with One Community Health around needs for that.
Arthur?
Yeah, so thanks. I appreciate your efforts in trying to get something more mobile. And it sounds like it's disappointing that this mobile unit isn't mobile. What I'm imagining is, I look down at the waterfront. I see the soccer games are started up again. So I see people all over the waterfront all weekend. I see people in our parks. I see a lot of outdoor dining, food carts all over the place. And I guess when we talked about mobile, what I had in my mind, and it sounds like what you had in your mind, is something like a food cart that could go one place one day and then go someplace else, get a call from a business, say, hey, come on over here, or know that there's an event at the high school and go over next to a football game or something. Is that what you're still working to try to accomplish?
We're trying to figure out the logistics. We're talking about, we had talked a little bit today about the county fair and being able to provide vaccine service there. We need a clean place, obviously, to be able to draw a vaccine, and a good place to store a vaccine. And so that'll be an ongoing conversation that we have, and trying to figure out the logistics for that. It was nice when Providence had their mobile unit, because that could be something that we could use very easily. Yeah, we'll continue to work on it. And like Darren said, the quote mobile unit, which is a big, it's like office modules that they bring in. Right. But they do have some vans that can go out on short trips, and has a small unit for keeping vaccine cold. It's not big enough to go out for like the entire day or whatever, but something like that would be really good. And it would be nice if we could figure out where to get that.
So if there's an option of purchasing something like that or renting something like that, I hope that you come to us and ask us for money to do that, because we have the money, as you know. Right. And would love to do something. And I see El Cuate has their spare truck sitting in the parking lot by the old Hood River News building, right? It's all been painted up and ready to go for the swap. So they're gonna swap one out, and I guess there's a fair amount of grease in there, so it may not be the clean environment you want, but.
I'll talk to Ian about that. He'll have some input, I'm sure.
I went to get lunch today, and Ian was just pulling in the back of the restaurant that I was going into. So I was, I'm not sure if that made me feel good or not, but.
Darren, is there anything else you wanted to add today?
Well, I'd love to give an update. I know you all have known that I've been working on what I like to call a mapping activity of all the outreach efforts going on in the community. And there's so much of it, that's what I'm learning, and more than even I knew, even as the COVID response coordinator. So it's been a really fruitful effort, and it's also shown me some of the gaps. And I think, I talked with Trish about them today. They're things that we've all known, the scarcity of bilingual, bicultural staff and people to work at clinics. I mean, these are things like that we all know, but also gave me a lot of ideas around. I spoke to some organization leaders who really feel that incentives and making a positive out of getting vaccinated is really going to be the next step. And so trying to get creative with that. And there are already some groups, maybe outside the region or within the region, that are doing some sort of incentive programs, and how we can maybe partner with businesses to also bring some revenue to them as well. So those are things we're starting to think through, and what the best venue for that is, whether holding a clinic in the evening and having food and music, and you get some sort of Hood River bucks of a packet where you can use them around town or something like that. So that's kind of the next stage of planning for us, is thinking about how we can do it in an ethical and beneficial way to all parties.
And that was what, sorry for being late. That's what I was hoping to hear.
Oh,
That's
okay.
kind of what I was really looking for. I read a lot of articles over the last week of, breweries around the country that are holding clinics at breweries and giving free beer if you get your shot. Music. Well, there's all kinds of things have been going on.
Yeah.
And yes, giving money away in some instances, lotteries, all kinds of stuff like that. So
Right.
And especially now
that's
with,
what I'm excited to hear about.
yeah, and especially now with younger adolescents being eligible to making events family friendly, or what will draw in all ages, and what's an incentive that works for all ages.
We were throwing around the idea of the fruit and veggie vouchers, see if we could capitalize on that local grassroots project.
Mhm.
So I'm eager to see us working on incentives, and it sounds like we got another $250,000 from the state to do that. So this is all wonderful. But what I find myself, I talk to my friends, and we're all talking about all the different things that we would imagine as incentives, and then I realize we're not at all the target market. We've already been vaccinated. We're not the demographics. We're not the financial background. We're just not the right people. Are there experts in this, or are there best practices, and how are you tied into that?
That's a great question. That's something I was going to say is really the important issue at hand right now, is we have to make sure whatever we offer is not going to be applicable to all groups. And so is it that we do something for a short period of time and then switch gears to do something different that may be more of an incentive to specific parts of our community? And we're an incredibly diverse county too, in spots and where people go for food or gas, or what they would want to do in an evening time. And so I think it's really, really important to ask specific community members. I think our community organizations know really well what tips the edge of somebody feeling like something's worthwhile or it's not. And I think for what I'm hearing for a lot of the community, that's a card to Safeway or Rose Hours or wherever people are getting their groceries. And that may not be true for everybody, but I don't think we can't try multiple strategies. It's not a one shoe fits all type strategy. So,
we have a huge amount of knowledge and ideas from our community health worker members who are parts of the populations that we want to reach. And that's why we utilize community health workers. And that's so important in our efforts, is because they are trusted in their communities and in their circles. And so they're a great source of information for us.
So I would personally encourage you to be entrepreneurial and to start earlier, be creative. Feel free to try something. If it doesn't work, try something else. But I'd love to see us starting to roll things out as quickly as we can and figure out what works.
And stay at the head of the pack. I mean, I'm proud every time I see those numbers in terms of statewide numbers. So it's a smile on my face every time.
Yep.
If you see any high school students, I mean, I keep telling them, I was just talking to my neighbor's kids, our 16 to 19-year-olds are so far ahead of anyone else in the state. It's just amazing. And they're even ahead of the the 20 to 29-year-olds in Hood River. So it just really says something about them that they've stepped up and gotten vaccinated at such a high rate.
Any other questions for Trish or Darren? Well, just to comment, Trish and Darren, I'm really happy to hear the different options that you're looking at, that we're not sitting on our laurels, and happy with where we're at. We're still pushing. We still want to be number one all the way through this process. And I don't think
We're
there's
not
any reason
competitive a bit.
Yeah, I'm proud of you guys. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
But, and I'm glad to see we're still going. So let us know if there's something more we need to do.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Trish. Thanks, Darren.
Mhm.
Bye.
Okay, next up on our work session agenda is Panoramic Point Irrigation System update. Michael, I see you're on. Oh, by the way, Heidi's going to bring people in and out periodically during it so that they're not always on as panelists. And so there may be just a slight delay when I make the switch, and especially when I don't tell Heidi I'm doing it. So, Michael, you in now?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
All right. Last month in the quarterly report, I added some comments with regards to the irrigation system at a Panorama Point, and my understanding was it kind of elicited some questions from the board. So Jeff had asked me to provide an update on the project. For the most part, I just prepared the memo that's in the packet just to give them a little bit of background and a little more detail of the situation. If you've had a chance to read it, I guess I just open it up and ask what questions you might have. I really didn't have anything else to update other than what I'd included in the memo.
Yeah, Michael, I've got a couple questions since
Sure.
you mentioned it. I assume that we have water rights with East Fork for that Panorama Point. That's correct, right?
My understanding is correct, yes.
Yeah. Do we actually pay for those, or do we just get those because we're both public agencies?
You pay.
Les is shaking his head no.
I will tell you, you pay. You pay in our district too. So
Okay.
You know, I'm familiar with the farmers' irrigation rights because of the way the billing is done. To be honest with you, I think for East Fork, it's just something that comes in, it gets paid, and I don't, see it offhand myself.
Okay. Well, that brings up the next question, which Michael or Les may be able to answer. It's my understanding, or I was always thought or told that for East Fork, it's their responsibility to get the irrigation water to some point on your property if you have the water rights. Is that correct or not?
that's incorrect. Irrigation is set up to deliver to a high point of a quarter. So irrigation was originally set up for when there were fewer property owners. So for instance, farmers delivers water to a quarter, and then it's up to the individual landowner to take it from there. So we have private lines that take off from a high point and that go to 100 properties sometimes. I'm on East Fork where my property is, and no, the line coming into my property is a private line. And so it is up to myself and my neighbors to maintain that line from the ditch down.
Well, and similar to that, I think the case of Panorama Point, it's what I'd call a private service. Maybe that's not the term that Les would use, but we were contacted, I think it was last September, from the district that there was a break in the line. They wanted to shut the water off. Was it okay? And we were at the point in the season where, yes, go ahead and shut it off. And we figured we need to get back to it this spring, just due to certain circumstances. We just haven't gotten to it yet. But after meeting with our park supervisor out there and kind of identifying where it's at, it's kind of a unique situation. But even so, I think that could probably be fixed in a reasonably short time. But that kind of led to some other comments with regards to the park area itself. Kind of coincidentally, though, over the weekend, I got an email from someone working for apparently working for East Fork Irrigation, that they're planning on replacing a number of lines right in that general area. So it was kind of a coincidence that this discussion was occurring at the same time. So, hopefully we can address some of the comments I'd had in the memo with regards to easements or working arrangements as far as maintenance. So hopefully that can be just kind of tied into their project that I just coincidentally became aware of this weekend. But as for right now, we're just trying to find the time to get out there and work on it.
Yeah, and I would say that's quite often what happens if we're working in the area on something else. We will do fixes or replace private sections if it's in conjunction with another project. So that timing could be great.
But after
Michael,
looking at this, go ahead.
about how much land do you actually irrigate on Panoramic Point?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I couldn't give you an area. I wouldn't think it'd be more than an acre. I mean, it's the general hillside on the south and eastern side, maybe some up at the top. It doesn't seem that big until you actually try to water it or you try to mow it. Then it seems like kind of a large area. But it's just within the park grounds itself.
So Michael, I just wanted to go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Arthur. It sounds like we have two fairly separate issues that are in the way for keeping Panoramic Point well watered, maintained, the favorite park that it is for the county. The first one is, sounds like there might be some conversation going on around repairing the source of the water to the park, but it also sounds like the age of the watering system at the park itself is to a point where in your report it said most of the sprinklers and such actually aren't really in working order, and that the time clock and the low voltage wiring and stuff around the place for controls is also deteriorated to a point where it's not really very functional. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then what's the resolution for that? I know that you don't have enough staff, and that's something that we as commissioners need to address, but what are some of the logistics around either repairing, replacing, enhancing the actual system that waters the park?
I think there's two different situations, and like you said, just repairing the source line for the water and then the system itself at the park. Our approach would be try to identify what exactly what the problem is. We do have electrical problems out there. The controller doesn't have power anymore. Over the last couple of years, power to the individual sprinkler heads has been going in and out. You try to find where the problem is, and as soon as you fix that, it goes out again because it breaks, it breaks somewhere else. And it's the best description I can give is, these were just, your basic 12 gauge wires that were buried in the dirt 20 years ago, and they've deteriorated. Shane and I met out there last week, and we just thought, let's get a bunch of wire and rewire this thing on top of the ground just to try to troubleshoot it. And maybe the problem isn't as big as we think it is as far as an electrical problem. But once you determine the best way to repair it, as far as making those repairs or reinstalling it in a better manner than it was before, might take a little bit of time and money, but that'd be my approach. I don't think the plumbing is nearly as bad as the electrical system out there. And that's just a, deterioration over time. With most, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, could you remove the electrically actuated valves and put manual valves in for, a season or two to get by? Somebody would have to open and close the valves, but if the wiring's bad, a simple fix would be to replace the valves with manual valves and just turn them off and on for a period of time each day.
My understanding was for the prior 2 years or previous to last year, that's basically what staff was doing. They were manually operating the valves, at least to get it some water. And at that point, some of the valves didn't have water, or, you know, some of the sprinklers weren't getting water, yet there wasn't water coming up out of the ground to indicate there was a break either. So it just, what, you know, whether it was a plugged line or broken and it was just soaking into the ground and not even making a wet spot on the soil, some of them didn't work, but they were doing it manually. And I kind of briefly hit on it in that memo that it is undesirable because the nice thing about having it on a timer is we can run it at night since it's a split system. So if we use the water during the day, you know, the adjacent property owner doesn't use it during the day. But again, that could be, you know, just a coordination effort with the owner and try to work something out.
Well, I think somewhere there's a gopher that's very upset that you flooded their home.
Well, unfortunately, there's quite a few trees out there that it really shows that there's been a lack of water.
Yeah. So Michael, I just wanted to thank you for the explanation you gave us, the written explanation. I thought it was extremely clear, and I feel like I know far more than I wanted to know about the system, but I appreciate the clarity of it.
Well, I appreciate that. I sometimes feel that my explanations or memos are, you know, rather derogatory or not very positive. I just try to be transparent on what the situation is. We're, you know, not trying to ignore it or disregard it. It's a beautiful park. It could be even more beautiful. It just is just trying to prioritize, you know, when to get work done. And frankly, I thought we could get to it this spring, and just due to some unfortunate situations, we just couldn't manage it.
Right, but we now know what, when constituents come to us to talk about this or complain about it, we know enough to tell them.
Okay. Well, and that was my purpose of at least mentioning it in the quarterly report, just to give you the board a heads up in case you heard calls or something.
We will.
Jeff, this may be a question for you. Is there somewhere there, not within the budget, but maybe on budgetary documents, in addition to all the other capital improvement projects, where we maintain a priority list of things that might capture this type of project?
Most likely in this situation, this would be identified as a specific project. It wouldn't be a part of something else. So it would be listed separately.
Would this be an appropriate use for the TRT dollars?
Yeah.
I would have to check into that. I recall the Attorney General's opinion about use of TRT for water and sewer and campgrounds very specifically.
Tourism related.
Yeah, I would have to check that opinion and see if this would be eligible.
I would certainly side with the fact that Panorama Point, a well-maintained Panorama Point, does promote tourism, or has the potential. So,
and I don't know if any of you guys have been up there recently, but I would really encourage you to go take a look at the condition of the park right now, because it's.
I was there last Monday. Yeah, it's in pretty rough shape.
It's not good. And
Yeah.
It's one of our most renowned parks, and it's the one our constituents really look to the most. And I would like to not just drop this as a good conversation. I'd actually like to somehow get this project prioritized and a monetary amount set as to what the goal would be to kind of rectify this problem.
I took the president of AOC on a short tour of the Valley, and Panorama Point was the first stop. And yeah, she made fun of us. Beautiful view. Park's a little rough.
well, since we're on that topic, in case other people may be listening, I do want to give credit to a volunteer group. I believe it is To Live to Cure. They did a volunteer effort out at Panorama Point within the last month. I try to credit staff for what they do and what they get to, but if in addition to what we've tried to accomplish, what level Panorama Point is at right now is due to volunteer work as well. So I just want to at least acknowledge them at this moment.
It's tough without water to keep
Yes.
a park looking great.
So, well, we will certainly try to, do what we can to repair it. And like I said, it was just a coincidence that East Fork Irrigation reached out over the weekend. I mean, I don't think that's something that's going to happen in the next few weeks, but this could be a bigger project that coincidentally gets a little extra help from other areas as well.
Michael, I'm a little concerned if we don't have that irrigation going on there, that it might be more of a fire hazard up there on that point. Is that a fair assumption?
I will just say it's a fair assumption because I don't want to disregard the potential for fire. However, the irrigation has been in poor supply for quite some time, and we've managed to minimize those risks. Although there was a fire close by not too long ago. But if it's a case of, the weeds or the grass growing too tall, we will go out and clean it up, and we'll do what we can.
Well, I think, there's one thing is you lose grass, and grass can be replaced easily, but you start to lose shrubs, and then you start to lose trees. And that's something that is not easily reversible. I think you just said that you're seeing significant stress on trees there. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, there's already been a couple trees removed. There's one right out there on the middle of the hillside I saw last week, and it needs to be removed. And you would think that, well, trees have deep roots, they can go without water. Well, not when they've been being irrigated for 20 years and all of a sudden it's cut off. So you can lose them kind of quickly. But back to Commissioner Joplin's question about, an approach of what do we do about it? We have a few ideas, and it wouldn't take weeks or months to try to solve the problem. It'd just take, a few days. Unfortunately, at summertime, a few days is hard to find, but we will certainly work on it.
Well, thank you, Michael, and I appreciate that you're going to continue to try to work on that with what means you have. Jeff, can we kind of take a look at our level and see if there's any way of getting some funds into this to try to set up a project like maybe redoing the irrigation system on that process or on that project?
Based on what information that Michael comes up with, it's certainly possible to do a budget adjustment if there's an appropriation needed to repair the system. At this point, I'm not sure that he has enough information to estimate what that might be.
Right, but I'm also thinking about there may be some other sources of funding that might be able to be put into this area, or even a grant or something. But of course, that's maybe down the road. But these are the kind of projects that you should be able to do with funds that aren't necessarily just general fund dollars. Any other questions for Michael at this point? Okay, thank you, Michael. Appreciate the information. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, Heidi, you could move Andres Von Floto in at this time for our next Planning Commission volunteer interview process.
Okay, he is on his way over.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. So I wanted to let you guys know, I just looked it up today. I thought that it was going to be all right, but I just moved houses and my new home is not in District 1 anymore. So does that disqualify me?
Probably.
I believe
Yeah,
so.
I'm across the
Lisa?
street from.
Lisa, are you on?
For District 1.
I am. I believe would disqualify him from District 1.
All right. Yeah, I'm across the street from District 1. My neighbor's in District 1, but I wasn't sure if this is going to be an open to all districts or just District 1.
We
I
had
believe
had
this
that-
is all District 1, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, we had that discussion, but we decided to have the seat remain assigned to District 1.
All right. Well, in that case, I respectfully rescind my application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for
Thank you
applying,
for
Andres.
applying, Andres.
Yeah, and just a quick question. Do we have another seat that was open? I know we were talking about position 1 and then was there an at-large position or a different position?
It was a rotating between AJ's position. AJ is the at-large, and it was the proposal had been to move AJ to the District 1 seat and then advertise the at-large. But in this case, we decided not to do that. Instead, advertise the District 1 position.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember the sequence.
Right, and now recognize we are going to be redrawing the district lines within the next 6 months. So the districts may move again, but this is where it is today.
Yeah, I would just
Okay.
encourage you
All right,
to apply to an at-large position if that becomes available, or to the district that you're now in. It is always difficult to find planning commission members, especially those that have experience. So I would just add that.
All right. Well, thank you for the invite. I think I'm actually in your district now, Bob.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Andres.
I'll stick around for the road naming thing.
Oh, good. Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, Heidi, we can move off Andres and get in the next, which is Leticia Valle Moretti. I believe.
Hello, buenas tardes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Great.
Leticia, can you hear us okay?
Yes, thank you, Chair Oates.
Okay.
And thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity.
Can I ask you, am I saying the name correctly? Leticia Moretti?
Yeah, you've got the Spanish down, or Letty for short.
Okay, that's easy. Okay. Well, welcome to our commissioner interview process. We have a list of some questions we generally ask, but you, as well as the other applicants, have already answered quite a bit of the first 2 questions with your application process. So I'm going to move on to some that weren't necessarily in that process. What is your personal philosophy on land use, and what would your philosophy be as a planning commissioner?
Great, well, thank you. I just recognize that the land that we have here in Hood River County is beautiful, and my values are just to maximize the resources that we have and make sure that we are able to provide what we need to for our community to be able to thrive, and supporting agriculture, economic development, housing, and the intersectionality with public transportation. But land use really, if we don't have land, then we can't occupy this space and make sure that we're maximizing all of the resources. We just want to make sure that we're planning in a thoughtful way to provide what our community members and agriculture and our community needs, really.
Okay. What is your definition of property rights?
I guess just the right to have your own space and also protect it, and create spaces that are welcoming and shared throughout communities. With property rights, we own a home here in District 1. You know that my dad and mom own property out in the Odell and the Pine Grove area. And what I've seen them do with their property is really create a space where they can celebrate their culture and their differences. My dad's got his horses and some cows and sheep and milking goats, and just able to provide more for our family because we have this property.
Okay, you obviously have personal thoughts and opinions of what Hood River County should be. How will you balance those with your planning commission duties to guarantee a fair process when applicants come before you?
I think I can provide that lens of community health and well-being that many times isn't thought of as land use, but really addressing the social determinants of health and making sure that I can either be an ear or a voice for those who don't often get the opportunity to speak out. Historically, I don't believe there have been many Latinos represented on the Planning Commission. My hope is to understand how things work and be able to explain it to my family members or community members who come and ask me about what's going on with the houses in Odell or Panorama Point Park, and be able to communicate what I understand is happening, and also collect information and provide that feedback for the Planning Commission. We can better understand what the diverse opinions and needs and gaps are. And in that way, just be better informed so that we can have more information on the table and we can better plan what to do and how to move forward with proposals.
Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to any questions by the other commissioners.
Thank you.
Bob?
I'm going to ask this question. Thank you very much for applying, by the way, Letty. And I'm going to ask this of every planning commission seat moving forward. I asked it last time. Have you ever been a member of or financially contributed to a land use group like Thrive or 1,000 Friends of Oregon that actively participates in land use litigation? If so, what was the nature of your relationship?
I haven't been involved or given any financial money to those two organizations. I worked with a land trust in Wasco County when I was part of the Blue Zones project, and we were helping promote trails and access to trails. I recognize that most of us, we all want to conserve the beauty of Hood River County, but I also feel that there is an obligation for us to make spaces for everyone to be able to enjoy it and contribute and understand how we can take care of our land together so that we're better informed. But I have not given any funds to those two groups that you mentioned. Thanks.
Thanks.
Arthur?
Hello, Letty. This is so my question is, I am working with you on the Historic Columbia River Highway Advisory Committee as our new member, and I've worked with you in CAT, and I'm wondering, do you have time to do all of these? Are you racing me to be involved in more organizations, or do you have time to do all of these jobs?
Yeah, well, I figured we could carpool, Arthur, to most of our meetings. But yeah, I am in a place in my life where I can help support these issues and just learn more. I feel like that my time at CAT has piqued that interest in land use planning and just understanding more how we need to collaborate with multiple partners in order to actually make something happen, and we can't do it on our own. I am working with Latinos en Acción, a program out of the next door, to help mentor someone else to come onto the CAT board eventually. So I am looking at letting go of a few things in a responsible way, but I have a supportive family who is definitely willing to have me give up Mondays or Wednesdays as part of the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Okay, well, Letty,
thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Les.
No, I just want to say thank you for applying and having the interest. Finding folks who are willing to put the time in to be a planning commissioner it's getting difficult, and it's a tough job. And I think it's a tougher job than our jobs, actually. So I really appreciate you stepping up.
Yeah, I recognize, and thank you for saying that, Les. I recognize I don't have a planning background. I do have a lot of friends who are supportive, and I know I would be reaching out to and setting up some good mentorships to make sure that if I am allowed to serve, that I'm doing it the right way and that I'm informed and continuing to learn how everything works.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Letty, for applying and answering our questions. And we really appreciate that people are willing to step up and get involved with this, or even ask to be involved with this. I can tell you from personal experience, sometimes being on the planning commission is not a lot of fun. It can be very gut wrenching because you're making decisions that affect people's lives, and whatever decision you make, it affects some of them the way they want and some of them the way they don't want it. So you got to be a little tough, just warning. So anyway, thank you for coming, and I appreciate all the work you do in all the other areas for helping people in Hood River County. And we will be letting you know how we decide later tonight. We'll be talking about it in our regular meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you,
I think we
Commissioners.
can take Letty off and bring on Kathleen Sanders.
Hi there. Are you able to hear me? Great.
Yeah, we can hear you, but we can't see you. Do you have a video, Kathleen?
I will work on that. There we go. I've been haven't had too many Zoom meetings.
Okay. Well, where you been?
I've been working the front line of the pharmacy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome to our little interview process. We got a few questions to go through, and then we'll open it up from the commissioners. Some of the questions we usually ask, you've already answered in your application, and we appreciate that. So I'll start right in with the other questions.
Sure.
What is your personal philosophy on land use, and what would your philosophy be as a planning commissioner?
Let's see. Personal philosophy on land use is, well, I think that it always needs to be guided in the best interest of the larger population. And around Hood River County especially, I mean, I know it started out with orchardists and people coming in, but certainly in my lifetime here, it's changed from logging and orchard, fruit and crops, things like that, to the big tourism flux, to now integrating all of that together in a big blend. And now we have the population expansion and housing issues, and taking that all together. And I know it's a big mix, and then we have conservation issues that we have to deal with and put that all together. So for me, it's looking at all of those issues, keeping it together, and balancing that all out to make each party happy, and looking to the future, and using the crystal ball to see which one is going to be most prominent in the next 10 years, 50 years, and putting it all together.
Okay, thank you. What is your definition of property right?
Property right. I think you separate it out to personal and public. I think for personal property rights, it goes to the property owner. And I think that has to lie within the laws though. Personal ownership, they can pretty much do what they want as long as it's legal and abiding and not disruptive to others. Public ownership though needs to serve the community and those that are using it. That would be my stance on it.
You're muted, Mike.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. You obviously have personal thoughts and opinions of what Hood River County should be. How will you balance those with your planning commission duties to guarantee a fair process when applicants come before you?
Well, that would be working within the current bylaws and any statutes that are already there. And I guess looking at whatever modifications or exceptions could be made. I know that we've come to the board before, or at least to the planning committee, with unique situations. And I can give an example where we have a piece of property, or my mom had a piece of property where we were supposed to put a driveway on a certain road extension, and just it wasn't feasible because of the steepness of the road. The fire department was like, this isn't going to work for us, and so we had to ask for an exception. And I think that there are unique situations in every municipality or county property where that can be a situation. But for the most part, I think 99% of the time, you go by the laws that are written, the bylaws, the standards, but keeping in mind that there can be a uniqueness to a situation where you have to give a little bit of wiggle to a real life situation.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioners? Bob, you generally have a question.
Yeah, thank you very much for applying, Kathleen.
Yeah, you bet.
So, like I said to the last person, I asked this of everybody, of all applicants.
Sure.
Have you ever been a member of or financially contributed to a land use group like Thrive or Thousand Friends of Oregon that actively participates in land use litigation? If so, what was the nature of your relationship?
I have not, Bob.
Thanks.
Other commissioners? Arthur?
Kathleen, thank you so much for applying. And my question is pretty simple. From what I've read about you, we haven't met before, but from what I've read, it sounds like you're an incredibly busy person. You've got several hats that you wear. And my question is whether you believe that you will have the time to do all the research and all the homework, as well as attend all the meetings of the Planning Commission.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Bevis, we have not met. I do know the others, but I am recently retired from pharmacy. So
you retired. Okay.
My current obligations are working on my golf game and attending to my husband's phone calls for the farm, which, it'll be great to have some reason not to have to do that.
Thank you.
Other commissioners?
Oh, I'll just say thank you, like I did to Leticia. Thanks for applying. It is, as I said, can be a thankless job. Mike's mentioned that. It can be painful. Land use is, I think, the toughest thing that we deal with, and the Planning Commission deals with it every single meeting. So
Yep.
Thank you for being willing to step up and put an application in.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for me right now. I mean, I've, moved back, done what we need to do here, but now I've got the time and I'm ready to serve publicly. And I think this is a great opportunity, and it is a place of interest for me and things that I know and would like to do.
I didn't know that people were allowed to retire from pharmacy right now. I thought that they would hold you there.
Oh, it just comes a time where you could, it would look like a clean break for me.
Any other questions by the other commissioners?
Thank you very much, you guys.
Yeah. Kathleen, one last comment. I
Sure.
want to expand a little bit on Les mentioned it, that this is a very difficult job and it's not always fun. I can tell you from experience that you get to make some really tough decisions, and no matter what decision you make, some people are going to like it and some aren't. So you got to be pretty tough. Just a warning.
Yes.
So appreciate you applying, and thank you very much. Later in our regular business meeting tonight, we will be talking about the applicants and deciding where we're going to go from here. But thank you very much for applying, and thanks for coming in this evening.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Heidi, we can take Kathleen off the main menu and bring on the Oregon Investment Board volunteer applicants.
Chair votes, I don't believe either one of them are on yet. They're scheduled for 5 o'clock. I did just exchange an email with Gil. He'll be calling in. So I'm watching for him to call in. Do not have Peter Kelly on yet either.
Okay.
We're moving through pretty good.
Okay, give me just a minute here.
Let me see. I'll see if I can have Gil call in early if that is okay.
It's fine with me. I don't want to move ahead to the next thing after that because people might not be here for that at this time either. Rand Road
think we're
Affordable
making-
Housing Project.
I think we're making so much progress because Bob isn't asking so many questions like he always does.
No, it's because you're not asking so many, Arthur.
Ah.
You're the one that has a
Oh.
list and a maximum number. Mr. Rivers told me that I need to put a maximum number on you,
I heard that. Was it 6 or 7? What was the number?
3 or 4, and it's open for debate.
I was told we got paid by the question.
I don't know about that.
I think you should get a bonus, Mike, if you can get these meetings done before 7:30.
Hey, if we get them done before 7:30, that's enough bonus for me. Would it be reasonable to do some of our reports at this time, Jeff, or should we wait till the regular meeting?
I think that's fine.
Okay. Jeff, how long is your report tonight?
Will not take 10 minutes.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, Jeff?
Sure, thank you. I wanted to update the board on the courthouse security project. The Sheriff English, Michael Dewan, and myself have been meeting with a team, mostly the architect, cost estimator, and the project manager, to review design alternatives and budgets associated with those. And I think we've pretty much narrowed in on a design at this particular point in time. I wanted to let the commissioners know, and this probably won't be a surprise, that the cost estimates based on the current pricing in the marketplace have gone up, and we're probably looking at something in the range of $220,000 to $240,000 for the project. And I don't have an estimated time to bid at this particular point in time, but I assume that would be pretty quick as we are finalizing the design. Any questions about that? The second item that I had, and I don't have.
Jeff, just a second. Arthur, go ahead.
Could you just remind me of what was the original estimate? No, what percentage has it increased?
I want to say it was about 180 or 185.
So it's about 15% up now. You said was it 230 you just said?
Depending on the design options, they were 222 to about 242 or 240,000. The design that was chosen is probably one that's a little bit less expensive. So my guess is it will probably be somewhere around 230.
Thank you.
The second item I wanted to update the commissioners on is we did indeed get our ARPA rules, and I have reviewed those, and I wish there were less rules, but it certainly does not prohibit the county from using that money effectively. I think the commissioners are aware that a request was received from the Port of Cascade Locks. I will respond to them. We are not at a point where we have a process in place to disperse this money. We actually don't have the money, and we don't have a contract yet to get the money. So we just have a set of rules that we're able to review. I'm not going to go through my initial remarks about the rules. I'll save that for a later time. But I will respond to the Port of Cascade Locks and let them know that we're just not quite ready to consider funding requests at this time. Any questions about that?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment, but I was surprised in reading the rules. It seems like they are setting up a situation where you do have to justify pretty much everything that you do. And there are a lot of counties in the United States, every single one of which will have multiple projects, each one of which will have some paper associated with it for justification. I guess my comment, I guess, is it's hard for me to believe that there's going to be tight oversight. It's hard for me to believe that there are going to be people actually reading and thinking about the aspects and elements of each of these justifications that you're going to have to spend actual time to prepare.
I would agree with that. I think some of the justification is pretty straightforward and very easy, and other parts of it or other projects may be more difficult to do that. So I think you really have to do just what you said. You have to do the work. You have to think about it. You have to make sure you're in compliance with the act and document it. And all I can say is I'm sure there will be audits, and I just hope that Hood River County doesn't get audited. And if we do, we're in total compliance.
So I'll just add for any of the other commissioners. So when I read through the details of the rules, I highlighted what I thought were the pertinent parts. So if anyone is if it's of interest to anyone, I can make that highlighted document available to you and as well as to the public, so that you can see. So it just may save you some time in reading if you have a highlighted version of it. I don't know if you guys like that or not, but I would be happy to share that.
Thank you, Arthur. That's it, Jeff?
I have a highlighted version as well, but I'm not as generous as Commissioner Babbitts. I don't think I want to share mine. But if you want to send me yours, Arthur, I'd be happy to read that.
Okay. So Heidi, do we have anyone on at this time for the interview process for the Oregon Investment Board?
Chair, no, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Les, are you ready for your report?
Sure. I can be fairly brief. Last week we had AOC Day. So the AOC board and subcommittees, legislative subcommittees, met in Hood River, and Chair Oates was there as well. I did take Melissa Cribbins, the president of AOC, on a tour around the Valley and just kind of showed her some of the housing issues, some of the land use issues that come up. Just kind of did a quick tour, and she was interested in kind of what issues we have. So it was nice to get out and show somebody from outside the area what we have going on. Energy Council side of things, we've talked in the past about figuring out a way to accept federal and state funding when it comes into the county, to have potentially a pass-through method or a way of handling those funds for organizations that maybe can't do that for themselves. The Energy Council kind of started working on a draft of a concept that would be a resilient recovery strategy. So knowing that there's a fair amount of funding coming in, not just on the COVID side, but likely on the infrastructure investment side of things, be looking to create a fiscal administration model that would allow dollars to be accepted for the community. And so the idea is to create a panel to come up with a method to receive this funding prior to September of this year. So not a lot of time, but it's definitely a need. There's a lot of entities that have the potential to receive funds, but maybe not the means or the wherewithal to manage those funds. So whether it's the county or MCED or some other organization, just being ahead of the curve and being ready to accept funds by the time they start coming in. And then I testified last week on legislation on behalf of CREO, of which Hood River County is a member. Testified on House Bill 2021. So it's a kind of a large energy related bill looking at a 100% renewable portfolio for the state of Oregon. I actually ended up testifying against it because of some of the aspects of community scale energy. So I know there were a lot of other things. I was just running through my head trying to remember what they were, but that's off the top of my head. Those are the biggest items over the last couple weeks.
Okay, thank you, Les. Heidi, do we have someone on at this time?
Yes, we have Gil Kelly, and so I'm going to, so he just phoned in. So he'll be able to unmute himself. Gil, are you there?
I am here. I can barely hear you, Heidi, but I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Gil. Can you hear me? This is Mike Oates.
Yes. Hi, Commissioner Oates. Yes, I can, or Chair Oates, I should say. I can hear you just fine. Thanks.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the Oregon Investment Board interview process, and thank you for applying. We have a couple of questions general, and then we'll open it up to questions by the commissioners. We noticed in your applications you were very thorough, so it was good to have all that information for background. Great job. First question for you is, meetings are currently every second Wednesday from 10 to 11:30. Does your schedule allow for this meeting schedule?
It does. My schedule, and I should note for you all, I'm wrapping up work for a long-term engagement, nearly a 5-year engagement in Vancouver, British Columbia, even though my permanent home is in Hood River County, and I'm very anxious to wrap that work up. From that point forward, my schedule is really my own, and I can work my consulting appointments around that. So yes, I can attend given that schedule.
Great. Understanding how businesses work and their financial information can be helpful in this role. What experience do you bring to the table?
Yeah, well, I've worked for many years, as you can see from my resume, in both the public and private sectors. And so while I've run my own small company at one point with a larger set of people, and now just me independently, I kind of know what it is to be in that seat. But I would say in my public sector roles, and I also worked for private development groups in that private sector arena as well. So know those kinds of company finances. They were not small businesses. One case relatively small, another case fairly large. So I kind of have that spectrum of understanding the business needs from the inside. But in my public sector role, I also wanted to just note that a lot of the focus in my work, while it's often been under the sort of planning and community development umbrella, has been a real focus on economic development. And in that role, supporting small business in each of the communities that I've worked in has really been a real focal point for me. And that has translated into work on small business grants, particularly on the capital side, not so much on the operating side, but on the capital improvement side. Everything from facade loans and interior space improvements to outdoor eating facilities, a whole bunch of things that I think have educated me about small business and retail needs. And so that's been a helpful experience for me over the years that I think might apply here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions from any of the commissioners? Nothing? Okay. Well, Gil, I appreciate you coming in and giving us the information, and you're obviously a very good candidate, and we will be talking over things in our general business meeting that starts later this evening at 6, and making a decision. Our decision isn't final. It's just a recommendation to the state. I believe the governor makes the final decision on this position.
Right. I understand that. Chair, if I could just make a couple closing comments, would that be all right with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to impress on the commissioners how excited I am about this opportunity. It's not just something I said, oh, well, this could be interesting. It's something really kind of core to my interests and also to my sense that Hood River County and the Gorge is really my home. And I've felt it's been that way since the 1970s when I was a young planner for the town relocation of North Bonneville in Skamania County. In fact, I remember making a grant to the Economic Agency for the Gorge at that point for essentially a community improvement loan to help businesses there in that town rebuild. But I want to say too that I've spent a lot of time in the intervening years where my permanent residence has been in Oregon and in the Parkdale area, Mount Hood area specifically, in a few different ways. One is that I served on a governor-appointed essentially commission or committee looking at revising the Oregon land use planning program, and that was about a 3-year project I assisted on as a committee member that I think concluded in 2015. And that I have also initiated with a group of fellows, initiated something we called Oregon 2050, which was really meant to, and this was started during the Kitzhaber thing and really caught hold with the current governor. She's now turned that initiative over at our recommendation to Portland State University to convene experts as a first stage of really a look at a fresh vision for Oregon as a whole, both on the side of land use planning, but also more importantly, I think economic development and healing the urban-rural divide, which was a central issue for us in that effort. So I'm really pleased to have put a lot of time in and investment in Oregon, and I have a sort of period now with the transition in my own career to give back a lot of energy to my home community. And that's one of the things that excites me so much about this board. And I hope to help the board make good investments to actually grow the pie if possible, and to evaluate how effective those investments have been. Metrics has always been an important piece of my work, going from vision to action to then evaluating how well we did and adapting as needed. So I really see the board as an important piece, one of many pieces, but a very important piece in building the future of the Gorge. So I just wanted to give you that perspective of my own. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that input. It's important, and we're glad that you are excited about the potential of doing this position. It's important, and we are always happy when we get good applicants. So, like I said, we'll be talking about this later in our regular meeting and making a proposal to the governor for who will be selected for this. So, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, Heidi, is Greg Davis available? And you can take Gil out of the main portion here if you'd like.
Yes, Chair, I just moved over Greg Davis.
There you are. Can you hear us, Greg?
Hello, yes. Good evening, commissioners. Thanks for speaking with me.
Okay, Greg, just so you know, it's a little bit hard to hear you, just a little bit. I don't know.
Okay, I will shout at my monitor a little louder.
Okay, Greg, well, thank you for applying for this position. It's a very important position, and we all were able to read your application and realize that you're another very good applicant for this position. We have a couple of regular questions, then we'll open it up, see if there's any questions from the commissioners. First up, meetings are currently every second Wednesday from 10 to 11:30. Does your schedule allow for the meetings, this meeting schedule?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Understanding how businesses work and their financial information can be helpful in this role, what experience do you bring to the table?
Yeah, well, I'm currently a business founder, business owner, and a CEO of a 24-person business here in Hood River. in this role. I've started from, before we had a business bank account, through managing our monthly financials, overseeing the coordination with tax accountants and auditors to understand our books, monitoring all of our budgets and things like that. So we have a pretty robust, hands-on understanding of our financial situation now. In previous work, I've also had profit and loss responsibility in various job roles and budget responsibility for development teams, and then of course manage home finances as well. So understand kind of the perspective at the personal level as well.
Excuse me. Great, thank you. Any commissioners like to ask any questions at this time? Okay, Greg, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself or this potential position that you haven't talked about yet?
Well, I'll share. I'm very excited about this position. I see a great opportunity through this position to further the economic diversity of the Gorge. Support small businesses. So I'm very excited about that. I currently serve on the board of directors of the Gorge Tech Alliance and have seen a lot of that community, and also see a great opportunity to further the kind of economic development of the region through this investment board. So I'm excited for the opportunity. Look forward to furthering the county's and the governor's goals here, and would love to be a part of it.
Greg, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it. You said you were on the board of directors of a Gorge. What was the name of
the Gorge Tech Alliance, the GTA.
Okay. Great. Anything else you'd like to add, Greg?
I think that's probably all for now. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, appreciate you applying. You're obviously another good candidate for a very important job and with a good background. So later on this evening in our business meeting, we will be discussing this, and we'll probably be making a proposal to the governor, who actually makes this appointment. We do not make this appointment. So that's where we are at this time. So thank you very much for your time today, Greg.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Okay, we're still ahead a little bit. Heidi, our next up is the Rand Road Affordable Housing Project. Jeff, I suppose you can handle that.
I can certainly try, Chair Rhodes. Rachel Fuller, the city manager of Hood River, was going to join the meeting to answer questions. Is she on?
Yes, she is.
Very good.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I forgot about Rachel that was going to be joining us. Well, as long as she's here, she can help or take the lead, or however you want to do it.
Sure. I was going to hit some of the slides in the storyboard that is on the city's website. The city actually has done all the listing on this particular project, and City Manager Fuller will be able to respond to questions much better than I would be able to as it relates to the project itself. In terms of the county's involvement, I can probably speak to that. So with that, I'm just going to go through a little bit of the storyboard, so I will share the screen. So this is actually not as easy to see as I had hoped. Where you see the, why does it keep doing that? Keeps popping in and out.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you a better view, Jeff,
Oh, all right.
but it's okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Where the yellow is the city's property along Rand Road. This site here. And for purposes of this discussion or this presentation, I have this slide up so that I can point out the county's property, which is this almost rectangle piece of property over here. The city's acreage is about 7, the county's is about 2. And the concept in the county working with the city is that the county would be able to potentially contribute that 2 acres in some way, shape, or form to help move along the project on Rand Road for the 7 acres, which is on the city's property and this site. So let me that. Kind of scroll through some of these. This is the city's site in detail, and I wanted to point out the little green dots are trees, but this is a wetland. And similarly, although not a wetland, the county's property on the 2 acres, and I'm sorry I don't have a diagram, this is encumbered with a floodplain from the creek that goes in there, and it actually severs the county's property into two pieces, one on either side of the floodplain, north and south. Gonna skip that one.
You're talking about the city property there, right, Jeff?
Actually, I was referring to the county's property. That's a wetland on the city's property. The county's property is encumbered by a floodplain. And it separates the county's 2 acres into a piece on the north side and the piece on the south side is what I was referring to.
Okay, thank you.
This particular diagram shows the zoning of actually both the city and the county property. I'm going to talk a little bit about the county property here. The north end would be R3, the south end would be R1, and you can see on the city's property there's both R3 and R1 as well. I'm going to go through this quickly because I want to get to the alternatives. The city looked at 4 different alternatives, and I'm not going to go through all of those, although I'm sure if you had questions about those, Rachel Fuller could answer them. What I wanted to do was go to alternative 3 right away. So this is the concept, and then there was a recommendation that was made by the city which incorporates the interests of the county. But for purposes of looking at a potential site design, you can see that the blue is affordable housing. Those are rental apartments, and as it's explained in the storyboard, roughly to maximize tax credit benefit, you need about 100 units, and so it's laid out that there's about 100 units. Those are all 60% AMI or less. And then the concept here is, in addition to that, to help pay for some of the infrastructure costs, there would be market-based units, and those are I guess that's lavender. The lavender color is up here. Those are detached small units, and then there's row homes down here. This is the wetland. This is the road that would go through, and I actually am not sure what that is, open space. But this is a concept that potentially the city and the county would be looking at in partnership. I think what I would like to talk about for a quick minute is how the county's parcel could contribute to the city's project. There are 2 ways that could be done. One is potentially through a land swap, potentially with the property owner down here to add additional property onto this side of the development. And then secondly, it is possible that, I guess there's 3 ways. The city or the county could sell its parcel and contribute the cash towards property, development of the Rand Road property. Or third, it is possible that the site could be incorporated and potentially used for development and or meet some of the off-site improvements requirements, off-site improvement requirements. So with that, scroll down. Here is a really good diagram that shows the county's parcel and the city's parcel, the extension of the road, potentially a connector here. And then as you keep going, there was an alternative 4. This was the one that was recommended. And this is the one that the Hood River City Council chose, and that is to partner with Hood River County to try to make this good project even better. And to that end, within the packet, there is a letter of commitment that would be included in a master developer solicitation that will be issued by the city. That was very quick. There's a lot of information in the storyboard. If commissioners are interested, I would encourage you to take a look at that. The link was in the packet. So with that, I'll answer any questions, and Rachel Fuller is on as well, and she can answer questions.
Any questions? Bob?
So are we being asked to approve the letter that was in our packet?
Yeah, that will be during the regular meeting, yes.
Okay, well, I guess I have a lot of questions about the project and concerns with us with the letter. I would be comfortable with language that doesn't commit us to contributing both of those things, but being open to seeing how both of the items on the letter would fit into their project. It's just at this time, I just don't feel like I have a good enough understanding of exactly where this is going. I mean, the property that we have, I think the intent when we purchased that property was the same as the other property we had, and that we wanted to get reimbursed for it in some way. And it's not entirely clear that that's part of this letter. And then also the 300,000 of the construction excise tax, I think that is going to require a discussion of some sort between all of us before I'm comfortable committing that, I guess. So I just feel like this is a little bit premature, I suppose.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, this is Karen. I have on the second bullet one where it says up to 300,000 of the CET. That part I think still allows for some of that conversation that you're thinking about, Bob. But the language on the first bullet, I don't really understand. Are we, I mean, in the fiscal impact document that talks about the existing note on the land and the amounts, but this bullet just says to contribute the land. So I don't understand. Is this letter saying that we're going to give the city the land? Or because my prior experience with Hood River Crossing was that we held the land in trust for them for development, and then they financed the project at the end into a solid loan and then repaid the county for the value of the land. So I guess I don't understand exactly what's being said in the letter, because contribute to me means give.
From my perspective, there, as pointed out in the agenda request form, there is a note that's due on this, and that has to be satisfied. And so the thinking in terms of the wording of the letter is that the excise tax money could potentially be used to pay off the note, or another source of funds could be used. So I don't want to say it's one or the other, but it could be one or the other. So the letter is worded to provide maximum flexibility to the county. I would also point out, although this wasn't the case when this conversation first started, is I I do believe that it's justifiable to use ARPA funds for affordable housing based on what's happened in the marketplace as a result of the pandemic. And it is possible that the county may be able to use some of the ARPA funds to assist with this project. I realize that decision hasn't been made, but it is a possibility.
I guess I've got the same concerns as Commissioner Joplin. I think that what I would say is if the letter's important and the word willing was changed to open, I think I would maybe be more in favor of moving forward with something.
Arthur?
So I did not see the letter as the same commitment that you saw it as. I see that the letter says that that's our intent, but that we will go down the road and that every step of the way, there are decision points in front of this. What I see is that our intent in holding this property and acquiring this property was to use it to generate affordable housing. And if the city is doing an affordable housing project, basically almost next to this, I would be in favor of us, instead of going our own and trying to figure out how to develop an affordable housing project there ourselves, in letting the city do it for us. I think that would be a great idea. And if we can do something that consolidates a little bit through a land swap, which has been floated by the property owner in between the two projects, or in between the two parcels, I would also be in favor of that. So I'll stop there.
Other comments, Les?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Arthur's saying, that the letter isn't necessarily holding our feet to the fire on any particular piece of this. I would not be comfortable just turning the property over to the city to develop. We purchased that property with our own ideas and concepts about developing projects or how we contribute it. I would want to retain a fair amount of access to decision-making in terms of how that would be utilized, because our goals are not necessarily exactly the same as the city's. We might have different ideas of how we want to see that that contribution go. So I would want to be a partner on the project, not just hand it over and say, good luck. So I do want to see this property. I think it makes a lot more sense to do a project together and figure out a way to bring that land into it. I just feel like it's a little too ambiguous at this point to feel comfortable just saying, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And I also, we've had a lot of discussion about that construction excise tax funding, how we want to use it, wanting to address more than just, 80% and below, really looking at that 80 to 120. And so I want to make sure that we're addressing, a range of housing issues with the funding on the property. So I would want to have a lot more say in how that went forward and have a hand in the process if we're going to contribute property and construction excise tax. And I'd need more clarity just on kind of how that's going to look before I was comfortable saying, yep, we'll hand it over.
Any other comments by any of the commissioners? Jeff,
Mike?
any more from you, or would you like Rachel to chirp in here?
Mike, could I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Arthur.
So I think the difference here may be that I have been sitting through the city meetings and listening to the city council discuss this and listen to the consultant talk about this. So what I see is what you all seem to be saying is that you're concerned because you don't know what the city plans to do with this, and you don't know that it matches our goals. And what I've seen very much does match the goals that I would have as a county commissioner. So I completely appreciate your need to see that and to understand that. And I hope that as you learn more about this, I suspect that you may come to agree with me on this.
And I guess it'd be nice Rachel's on the meeting. This obviously been intimately involved through the process. So I would really love to hear from Rachel. It seems like that's the piece that I'm missing. I've kept up in reading, what's been available, but would love to hear from Rachel.
Rachel?
Sure, commissioners. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really here to answer any of your questions. What we've seen so far, and this is somewhat conceptual, is that we have predicted a financial gap in really two places. One is the affordable apartment development. The reason for that, the primary reason, is that in Hood River County, we're really only eligible for the lower amount of low-income housing tax credits. So many developments will have a gap, not the higher amount. And so that's number one. So there's a financial gap there. That's what we conceptually thought about using the construction excise tax dollars for. The second is that the development of the on-site infrastructure, there's also projected to be a gap there. So we're currently looking at various sources of funding, including, American Rescue Plan funds from the state. It did seem like bringing the county's property in could present an opportunity to pay for some of that infrastructure cost with market rate housing. If we have more property available, we can keep the same number of affordable units and add some market rate houses in to help pay that infrastructure cost. So again, these are conceptual, and certainly the city would not negotiate your property without your consent. And so really the letter is meant to be conceptual, willing to consider this, but in no way would the city be asking you to simply turn over the property. It's an opportunity for partnership. But again, an idea, a concept. We are proceeding with our request for qualifications in June, regardless.
It may be that, the look at the language of the letter, and, I think my comfort level would be higher if the language said something more like specifically the county is willing to consider use of the county property near Wine Country Road to fulfill the project objectives, and a potential contribution of county construction excise tax, which is much more general and feels much more like kind of where we are at this point. And that way, the folks who are going to be considering what to do and doing a proposal can actually then put forward that. It just felt, the letter just felt like we were basically kind of saying, this is what we're going to do. So if we back the language out a little bit, I think I would be more comfortable at this point.
I agree with Les's language suggestion for the change in the letter.
I would also agree. I think the issue is, if someone from the general public reads this and asks me what we did, I don't know how to respond to them. And, to me, I would agree the language needs to match more where we are instead of what's in the letter.
But I do think it makes all the sense in the world to look at how we can maximize use of that property with the project that the city's considering. And same with our construction excise tax dollars. I mean, absolutely, we should be looking at how we can utilize both of those into this project. It just feels amorphous at this point.
Question, Rachel, if we change the language on that letter to what Les was just proposing, would that still be of value to your proposal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would love to partner with the county on this and provide, the goal is maximum flexibility so that we can make this affordable housing development happen.
Okay, well, I haven't said what I think, but so maybe I should. I think the two key points are is we have a real opportunity here to have a more efficient, more economical development of this land if we can try to find a way to junk it with the city and what they're proposing and some of the infrastructure costs and all that, because it's, you do your own thing and it's, the infrastructure is going to kill you on a 2-acre parcel. Second of all, I think the commissioners have said it right. We're pretty specific about how we want to watch what we do with those construction excise tax dollars and what we want to do with land we already have. We really want to be careful, do it right, and make sure we're getting the best thing we can for the people of Hood River County. So I think the wording that Les is proposing there is making it more generic so that we can have more flexibility and still try to work towards that goal that we were just talking about. I think it worked fine for me. Any other comments or questions or anything on the subject? Okay, Rachel, well, thank you for coming and being on our meeting with us. I understand aren't you going in a different direction here pretty soon?
Thanks for having me, Commissioner. Yes, my last day with the city will be July 2nd. It's been a privilege and an honor, and we love this community.
Well, thanks for all you've done for the city and for our relationships. It's always been great working with you. Thank you very much. Been a good working relationship, and I'm going to miss you. I hope you don't go too far.
We won't, Commissioner. We are, Chair, we are sticking around. So thank you very much.
Okay,
take care.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, next up, if they're available, Heidi, we have the Mid-Columbia Homeless Shelter Needs, Dr. June Gower, Mid-Columbia Center for Living.
Good evening, Commissioner Oates.
Good evening. Can you hear us okay?
I can. For some reason, my video is all blacked out. I apologize. It does not seem to be loading.
Okay, do you want a minute to try and find it? We're a little ahead of schedule if you want a minute to try to work on it.
Yes, sir. Give me just a moment. I'll see if I can.
We're getting an occasional flicker from you, so whatever you're doing, you're hitting the right thing. You're hitting something.
Except no picture, right?
Well, it's just a little single line that we're getting occasionally. So it's not solid black. So something's going on with the camera connection. Is this an external camera that's plugged in?
It is.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I assume you've tried plugging it in again.
I have, but yeah, I did that earlier. Give me just a moment. Sorry to be messing with technology.
No problem. Like I said, we're a little ahead of schedule, so you've got some time.
Well, I unplugged and you know what they say. Well, does not seem to be taking. Let me try this. All right, let me restart up my video. Okay, well, that's me, one great big black screen. I apologize. Thank you. I appreciate the county commissioners having me as a guest this evening. I just wanted to share briefly with you Mid-Columbia Center for Living's commitment. Should you decide to keep the pallet shelters open through this summer, the commitment we have made with Wasco County is that our Actonisa team will go down and check on the residents in those pallet shelters. What that consists of is checking to make sure that people appear safe, that if we have a client that is residing in any of those shelters, we are personally checking in on that client to make sure that medications are being taken as prescribed. And if they need to come to our Hood River office, that we can escort them so not to be disruptive to the pallet shelters. We also have offered some of the residents of the shelters things like supportive employment opportunities. And we can do that just based on anxiety and depression. And post-COVID, who doesn't feel anxious? So it's a pretty broad spectrum that we can offer skills. The folks residing in the pallet shelters do not have to have necessarily a mental health diagnosis for us to reach out and offer them some additional supportive services. So I just wanted to have an opportunity to offer our support should you decide that should your pallet shelters remain open into the summer months.
So this is Karen. Thanks, June. I have a couple comments. I just wanted the commissioners to be aware that this opportunity was taking place in Wasco County. And in Hood River, we've historically just had our warming shelter services through the cold months of the winter, providing some housing for some of our homeless folks. But with the investment of the pallet shelters, has the potential to open up other project ideas. And in thinking of funds that might be available to help in COVID recovery projects, I thought that this might be one that the commissioners should be aware of that's taking place in our neighboring county of Wasco. There's certainly logistics and partnerships and locations and things to consider, but I just wanted everyone to be aware that this is something that is actively taking place and really provides a significant benefit for those that are homeless. And we have an increasing population of homelessness in Hood River that we're seeing now year round.
Arthur?
So June, I'd like to give you a chance to talk a little bit about to us about how providing more and better services to the houseless population in our city and our county affects the community overall. We did receive a letter from someone suggesting that the result of this would be that we would simply have more need. As you meet need, you just create more need. And I know there's a lot of research on this, and I'm hoping you can inform us.
Sir, are you speaking specifically to the pallet shelter or to care in general?
Well, you talked about the pallet shelter, but you talked about the care that would be associated with the pallet shelter. So that
Yes,
to
sir.
me is an improved degree of service to this community that's there, whether we have the pallet shelter or not.
That's true. We, Mid-Columbia Center for Living, truly believes in helping an individual to obtain life skills. And that some of that requires some handholding, you are correct. But it's really not our goal to make the individual reliant upon the provider for care. What we're here for is to extend those life skills, to help people get back on their feet, to help them have a sense of stability so that they can be contributing to the community in which they reside. Did that answer your question?
It did, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Other commissioners?
So
I just want to know what exactly, oh, sorry, go ahead, Les.
I was just going to say, we don't, at this point, we don't have a potential location identified, correct? It's just do we want to consider utilizing pallet shelters with more wraparound care? Is that?
Les, I understood. I have a new partnership with Kenny LaPont, who oversees both of the pallet shelters. He is also helping me to extend some of my homelessness dollars, which is kind of tricky in the mental health world because they're highly restrictive. So he's a good partner for me. I understood that was the barrier in Hood River, was that there was not a permanent site location that had been identified. I'm not sure I can help with that.
I guess this is Bob, and I've in the past been critical of the warming shelter, not because of the service that it provides, but because of the lack of information that they're gathering. I'm wondering if there's any plans to gather information about the folks that you'll have in these so that we can use that information when we're making decisions or about what services we need to provide or what needs there are in our community.
Bob, when you're talking about gathering information, are you speaking more in the general term around who is residing in the shelters, or are you specifically looking at mental health, folks with mental health and the services that they're receiving, or both?
Both, I think, as much as possible. I think that what this is it's a great opportunity for us to gather information about those folks in our community, or if they're even from our community, and do anything we can to try to help address the issue. I think that the problem I had with the warming shelter is that I think the mission was to just provide housing regardless of anything else. And I would just question the rationale there, and what good does that do other than obviously it gives somebody a warm place to reside, but I think that the goal should be solving the homelessness problem, not just at the end of the day that should be our goal. And so I think gathering information is something that if we have a spot for these folks to come, it gives us that opportunity. And so I'm really interested in doing as much as we can to gather as much information as possible through the warming shelter component. And then also this would be another opportunity to gather information as well.
We agree with you. I think one of the conversations that Kenny and I have had is the warming shelter should really just be a stopgap. Now, granted, I can't force my client population into a home environment. Some of them can't function, quite frankly, in four walls. And so we try to be very cognitive of not accelerating what would be disruptive behavior in a community by forcing somebody into a shelter or into a home when that's really uncomfortable for them. On the other end of that data, we collect all of the data for anybody that we touch as the behavioral health provider, because it's required of us by both our CCOs and OHA. It's part of our service model. So, and we don't do a marvelous job at it, but I've got some basic data and some stats, only because my tool is so poor at data mining. So I could give you some of that information. And we track it pretty regularly. As far as moving the folks from a temporary shelter environment into more of a temporary and then a permanent housing, that's really where we all should be moving. And I think that in having several meetings with Kenny now, who has really taken a hard look at housing and how we can move that dial, I think that that's his goal. He and I have talked about starting in what is considered a shelter environment, and then moving our clients into temporary housing that is manageable. And my current problem is there is not a lot of small units that somebody with a mental illness that I can move into and help them to maintain a healthy lifestyle. They're either not available, they're not classified as Section 8, so I can't get them funded, or I can't find it small enough so that the client can manage it. I have lots of vouchers. I just don't have housing to be able to apply them to.
And Bob, what I can add that may help you understand this is it's in the Community Action Council board meetings, we discussed this very issue of in relationship to the shelter in the Dalles, which has just been extended to a year-round operation. And Kenny has been very clear that people are not allowed to stay there if they are not in the process of working to transition out of there. It's not a place that you stay, it's a place that you move into temporarily as you work to find housing outside of there.
And for us, thank you, Arthur, for us, it gives our clients a chance to have a living environment in which they feel safe, that we can teach skills. This is how you keep your place clean. I know that sounds pretty basic, but if you were never taught that skill as a child, it's not, that basic understanding is not a norm for you. From there, we enroll our clients into supportive employment. And we have several of our clients that the local businesses have employed. But it's hard for me to get them employment if I don't have a place for them to clean up, prepare some meals, get a good night's rest, without fear that somebody's going to overturn their shopping cart or steal something of theirs or take their tent. That's a real temporary environment in which people are pretty much on the move. It's hard for me to get them. It's hard for us as a provider to teach skills when they take a nomadic path, because then we chase them down and, you know, they're constantly changing their lifestyle around. And did that answer your question?
I think so. I mean, I don't entirely understand what's happening here. I think Arthur helped kind of explain that to me, that this is, my concerns are being addressed. I guess this is just more informational for us to hear from you about what's happening, less about, and it's considerably different than the warming shelter situation. That's pretty clear also.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm always really interested in any of these opportunities that we have to gather information to better understand the picture of the homeless situation, and just want to ensure that that's happening, and it does sound like it is. So thank you.
I would agree with Arthur. I think that Kenny has taken a very proactive stance. This is temporary. It's to help you get back on your feet. You have to have other actions in plan, and that includes all of our clients.
Any other questions or comments by the board?
I'll just
Jeff,
say,
you anything to add? Oh, I'm sorry. Les, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the tough part is that, particularly now, we've seen the homelessness issue just continue to grow and grow, not just here, but in pretty much every community you go into. And so it feels really large and hard to wrap your head around how to start making headway and making progress. So it just appreciate having options and starting to look at ways that we can, address the issue. But man, it just feels overwhelming.
Les, I agree with you, and it is for us too. Here we have a particularly difficult clientele when it comes to housing. They're a difficult place. And I agree, it's happening. Homelessness is in every community. I just want to leave the board with the reassurances that if you need an in Columbia Center for Living, we can be there, and we can be there for anybody who is in a shelter environment to either help them get back on their feet, to maybe offer them some supportive employment opportunities, or to teach them some life skills that they need to be able to contribute in society. So that's our commitment to Hood River. If there's an opportunity, we would love to help you with it.
And I'd like to add, being our rep on the board of Mid-Columbia Community Action Corporation, Council, I'm sorry. I am learning every day about the successes that we're having. And I think it feels far less overwhelming to me now. And I certainly appreciate your comment, Les. I mean, that's exactly the way I felt when I joined this board. And it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do here? But as I see the work that's being done and the successes that we're having, I feel much better about it. And I feel like it's not as overwhelming as I thought it was. It's hard, but we're doing the right things. We're headed in the right direction.
Would you be willing to have the folks that you're working with on CAP board that you're talking about?
I'm sorry, Mid-Columbia Community Action Council and the CAC?
Yeah, McCack. Okay. Would you be willing to like have somebody from McCack come and give a 10-minute presentation?
I think I was going to suggest we can have Kenny come in and give an update since it's probably been quite a while. Well, he's new to McCack. He's about 6 months into the job now, but it would be very appropriate to have him come in and explain direction that the board has set and that he is administering now very ably. I think you would learn a tremendous amount, and I think it would be a very well spent 10 minutes.
Yeah, I like that.
I'd just like to add also, just on the voucher component, as a landlord that has been approached about that before, I can just say, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, that the vouchers are not near enough to be attractive to a landlord in almost all cases. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that. I'm sure that's been brought up, but it is it's unfortunate that can't be remedied somehow.
Well, we have ARPA funds. No, I'm serious. Yeah, that's one of the things we can look at. And this is an issue across Hood River County. In Wasco County, what happens basically is, if you look at the service district for McCack, the Section 8 vouchers are not being used in Hood River County because there's no place to use them. They are being used elsewhere, and we may be able to do something about that.
It's been that way for years. I mean, the Housing Authority, when we look at the Section 8 data, the vouchers go outside of Hood River County for the vast majority of the time. It's been that way, and there's been a lot of efforts to raise those voucher levels. It's the federal government, and the means and methods are rather difficult. I know there's been some successful increasing in those vouchers, but they're still, like you said, Bob, they're still dramatically below what they need to be.
Yeah, because like I said, I think there is housing here and people interested like myself that have looked at that. It's just when you look at the numbers, it's just, it's not worth it. Doesn't make sense.
Any other questions or comments by the commissioners? Jeff, anything you want to add at this point?
No, thank you, Chair Oates.
Okay. June, anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, Commissioner Oates, I appreciate the opportunity to support Hood River as the local behavioral health provider. So please don't hesitate. If there's anything we can do, just reach out and we will do our best to be supportive and to help in any way possible.
Well, thank you, June. Thanks for everything you do, and thanks for giving the presentation this evening. Karen, thanks for putting this forward with us. At this time, I'm going to adjourn the work session for 4 minutes. So we're going to have a 4-minute break, and then we'll come back at 6 o'clock and start our business meeting. So Heidi, we're off for 4 minutes. We'll start at 6.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Okay, looks like we're all back here. It's now 6 o'clock. I'm going to start the business meeting for the Hood River County Commissions for this May 17th, 2021. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda? Sorry, Karen. Any additions or deletions, Karen? No, okay. Any conflict or potential conflict of interest?
Yes, I have a conflict in the intergovernmental agreement with Farmers Irrigation District of Hood River County. The discussion on that.
Okay.
I think I did have a potential conflict, but I don't know that I do anymore. In the legislative amendments regarding the code changes. So anyway, I'm confused a little bit, but I'm I guess not going to disclose. That's kind of my decision, I guess, at this point.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have a public hearing for the road naming ordinance, San Giorgio Road. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the second reading of ordinance. An ordinance to name a new road along the south side of Ginyard Drive on property owned by Ginyard Holding LLC to San Giorgio Road.
So moved.
I will second.
Moved by Arthur, seconded by Karen, that we approve this second reading of the ordinance. This time, I'll open it up for Eric, if there's any information for him at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing more to add.
Any other questions by any of the board? Hearing none, I'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Being that this is a public hearing, we should probably make sure that nobody is on that wanted to testify
Oh, yes.
related to this.
I'm sorry. That was not in my minutes. Okay, at this time, if there's anyone in the audience that wanted to speak on this ordinance.
Chair, I just moved over Andreas Busploso. I believe that he was here earlier and indicated he did want to make a comment on this hearing. You can ask him.
Okay, Andreas, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I got you guys.
Go ahead, Andreas.
Oh, no, I didn't want to make a comment. I just thought you guys might ask me for any questions since it's a road that I built. But if you guys are all on board, then it sounds great.
I think it sounds good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Heidi from the audience that wants to make a comment?
Chair, no, not according to those who registered.
Okay, thank you. This time I'll continue. I'm going to redo the vote. Commissioner Babbitts?
You forced me to find the unmute again. Yes.
Commissioner Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. At this time, the second reading of an ordinance to name a new road along the south side of Ginyard Drive on property owned by Ginyard Holding LLC to San Giorgio Road has been adopted. Thank you. This time I'm going to open it up to public comment on anything else that people from the public wanted to talk about that's not on the agenda. Heidi, is there anyone that wants to speak with us?
Chair, not according to those who registered. I do have one person who is phoned in. I'm not sure if they want to make a comment. I did not receive an email, but let me see if we can allow them to get access. Phone number I'm looking at is 714-349. If you would like to make a comment under public
No comment.
All right.
Nope,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that's it, Heidi?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Reports. Okay, we've heard from Jeff and Les. Arthur, you got a report?
I do. Let me just grab my notes. So there are 3 committees that I'm on that have had meetings in this time. I think I actually reported on the last Mid-Columbia Housing Board meeting, as well as the Visit Hood River Board meeting. We're actually meeting later this week. So I will skip over those. Mid-Columbia Community Action Council, MCAC. This says, so Kenny's been there, I think 6-8 months, something like that. And there were a lot of major things he needed to work on. The last couple of weeks have been extremely difficult. There have been some very big problems that have sort of reared their head, but they're all of the nature of things that need to be cleaned up for the organization to function well long-term. I'm not going to give details because there's some potential legal issues. I'm not sure what is supposed to be in the public record and what isn't. I think what I will do instead is I will share the details with the chair and with Jeff and let them determine what to do about those issues, whether it's things we need to, that we as a commission need to be informed about. So I will do that, but Ken is working very hard to get things running well, and overall we're having some really great successes. So I will leave it at that.
Any questions for Arthur?
I'm sorry to be so mysterious, but I'm never quite sure what is appropriate for the public discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Joplin.
I missed my health council meeting, so I have nothing to report there. And with Center for Living, we're still working on righting the ship financially. It's very positive. Things are looking good. And that's all I have to report. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Karen? Commissioner Benton.
All I have to report is that I testified before one of the Ways and Means committees at the legislature for bridge funding. We're requesting $5 million to help continue to move forward with the engineering, or I guess, what is it, Arthur? We're working toward 30% of I think the project something. Anyway, I can't remember entirely what it was about, but anyway, but the state of Washington appropriated $5 million for the bridge project, so that was good. So we're trying to get Oregon to kick in another 5, and hoping they do. So yeah, that's all I've really got to report.
And there's a meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, are you going to be able to go to that? I'm going to be in Las Vegas.
Okay, yeah, I can go. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I just have to tell. Oh, okay. We'll talk offline.
Anything else, Bob? No. Okay, I've got three short things. We've been working on the pest control situation. As you may recall, we have an ordinance in Hood River County to try and control pest situations when orchards are abandoned. And we've had difficulty time financing that and taking care of those things in the processes that we were given because of potential for legal situations. So I've met with the people from Columbia Gorge Fruit Growers Association, Mike Doak, and a couple of members of their board, and Kathy Phelps from the Oregon Department of Agriculture. And the reason we brought in Kathy Phelps is Oregon Department of Agriculture actually has a program to handle this pest situation, and a way to do it. They have the ability to actually issue fines and have the financial and the legal background and backing to look at these situations when they occur. So we're trying to work up a process where when the county gets information like this, when the Columbia Gorge Fruit Growers gets information like this, we can go through Kathy Phelps, who's a local representative from the Oregon Department of Agriculture, and she seems very capable and can start to work with the homeowners to see what the different options are. And she actually has a little power to actually implement something if she needs to. So that's for the first time in a long time, I think we're going to get something done on the pest situations in some of our abandoned orchards, which there seem to be a few periodically now. Any questions on that? Okay. This Friday, ODOT's going to hold a gathering at Toll Bridge from 12 o'clock to 1:30. I hope you all got an announcement on that. They're going to go over some of the proposed workings in Hood River County, and I assume there's going to be something to eat there because it's 12 o'clock. But anyway, it's going to be at Toll Bridge, and I hope everyone can come and be brought up to date from the
Mr. Chair.
group. Yes.
So I was contacted by Kristen Stallman. She wanted to know if I thought it was a good idea to have the meeting, but I have not received a actual invitation to it. And I can tell you that there will not be food. You were supposed to bring your own food. They can't provide food because of the state of emergency, so they're not allowed to provide food to us. They normally would, so don't go there expecting food.
Okay,
bring a sandwich.
Glad you pointed that out.
I just saved you from a very miserable day. But I have not received an invitation. Has anyone else gotten one?
But Mike, I'll come if you bring me lunch.
Okay. Heidi, we want to make sure that everybody knows about that in the next day or two. I mean, I'm telling them tonight, but let's get that information out to them if we can. If you need any more, let me know, Heidi, and I'll get it to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oregon Health, or Associated Oregon Counties. Les mentioned that we were at the meetings on Monday, and I was glad Les was there, and I think Arthur was on part of it. I don't know if Bob and Karen came in or not, but anyway, you know, most of the time they're boring, but there's always some things in there that are of interest. And I went through the process, and they gave us the process on how they're going to do the funding now, and it's totally different. I can't disagree with the process they're doing. The number for us for next year is going to be $18,763.44, which is substantially more than what we've been paying. For the reasons is now there are no voluntary dues. Everything's you're either in or you're out, and that's one thing. The other thing is they tier-base the fees by populations. And in talking with Jeff over this, we kind of both agreed that, you know what, for what we're getting, $18,000 doesn't sound that bad. What we were getting before at half the price, we weren't getting a good deal. And I think it's all because of the new person that's in charge there, Gina. And she's just doing an incredible job, and she's giving us information that we want and we need, and she's doing the job. And so I think we're getting a bang for the buck, and I hope that's okay with the commissioners, that's about what our cost is going to be for the AOC and it'll probably tier up a little bit every year. Anything else to add on that, Les?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw in, having been more involved this year with natural resources and the public safety side, there is a lot going on at the legislature that affects us. And AOC has a young, very effective lobbying team. They had a lot of turnover in that area, and I have to say the new staff that they have are really hardworking. They do a great job of keeping everybody informed and trying to bring consensus to a group of commissioners who have wildly different ideas of how things should function. It's a really tough job, but without AOC really watching over those bills that are moving through in all different areas, we would kind of be lost and really have no idea what we should be commenting on. And so, I mean, that $18,000 just for that aspect of having a voice in the legislature is worth every penny, in my mind.
Yeah,
I totally agree, Les. Thank you.
So if I could add,
go ahead.
My experience. So I'm new to this. I don't know what it was before, but I have a pretty good nose for when organizations are in trouble, and everything I see looks great. It's exactly what I would expect. They're delivering what they said that they would deliver, and it seems to be a good value. So I'm glad I didn't have to work through the problems that you're describing, but everything I see now looks very clean and good.
Okay, thank you. I had one other thing I wanted to bring up with the commissioners. I didn't really want to be put in this position, but I am. Before we started the process in the budget committee for elected officials compensation, I asked Jeff and Cheryl to give me the information on what's the total compensation for all the different commissioners, including any benefits such as the health insurance and whatnot. And when the information came out, it was a little bit unclear just what was going on and what the process was supposed to be. And so I tried to find out a little more information. I talked with Les, who's been around for a long time, and is back in the day when we used to have a stipends for it instead of any health insurance. And I talked to Mr. Rivers, who remembered the stipends part, but wasn't sure what happened after that. It just seemed like we weren't real clear where we were and what we were doing as commissioners as far as our health insurance or any other benefit. What that process was. Jeff was able to find a policy, and it's a little unclear. And the reason I bring this up today, because we're going to have a conversation about what we're doing and how we got there. And I hope that three of you have been on here for a while. You probably know the answers that we don't have. And we're not going to talk about that tonight, but I'm just letting you know that probably in the next meeting or so, we'll put it on the agenda so we can discuss this and find out where we're at on these things. Anyway. That's the end of my reports. Next up, consent agenda. Les, the thing that you didn't want to be involved with, is that in another area now?
Yeah, I don't have a conflict with the county applying for grant funds for the campground. That doesn't really affect me. It's
so the consent agenda is okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve. Oh.
I heard Karen first.
I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Work section action items. Letter of intent, RE Rand Road. Authorized Chair Oates to sign a letter of intent to partner with the City of Hood River on the Rand Road project related to affordable housing. As you recall, in our discussions in the work session, we want to see some changes in that wording. Les, you want to make sure we get that correct?
Oh, let me see. I think I said, make sure I'm not muted. Okay.
I've got a pretty good idea too, but go ahead.
I'm trying to remember what I said. If you remember, go ahead and take a stab at it.
Chair Oates?
Yes.
I wrote it down, at least the phrase. I think it's where it says specifically the county is willing to. I think
Yes.
that needs to be changed to say specifically the county is willing to consider.
Yes.
I wrote down was the preferable language there.
Yes.
And so then it would be contributing. I think for my purposes, I would reword that piece of it and say use something different than that in terms of contributing county-owned land. Something that would imply that the county is willing to provide the land to further affordable housing in that area, but I don't know that you want to use that word based on what I heard.
I think we could maybe say utilize the county-owned property near One Country Road for the project. That way, it's pretty general.
That's great.
And then,
I think
instead of saying, sorry,
Go ahead, Jeff.
I remember the other. It was instead of saying contribute up to $300,000 of county construction excise tax. I think I had said utilize the county construction excise tax. So there's not a specific number tied to it, but it's just saying we would consider utilizing. I just needed a little bit of jolt to my memory.
Give Jeff a minute there to get it down. I write it down, but then I can't read my writing.
I have the same problem.
Yeah.
That's what these magic devices are for.
Great, I think I got it. Thank you.
Okay, can you state it back for us, please?
Specifically, the county is willing to consider utilizing the county-owned property near Wine Country Road for the project and/or utilizing community county construction excise tax proceeds for the project.
Sounds right. Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
I move we authorize the chair to sign the letter as just read to us.
Second.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin,
Yes.
Commissioner Babbitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
chair votes yes. And the letter as rewritten will be presented. Thank you. Thanks for that help, Jeff. And Les?
Yes.
I
Thank
think
you to the commissioners. I think this is, I mean, I don't know how this is going to end up. I really don't. I think a lot will depend on what happens as the process moves forward. But as has been said by the commissioners, this is a great opportunity to try to get some affordable housing. And in this particular instance, the county has the ability to help make it happen. And so it is a great opportunity. Or we hope it's a great opportunity.
okay. Yeah, I'm happy with the rewording on it. I can support that the way we did it. I appreciate that work on that, people. Next up is our Oregon Investment Board recommendation. We had two candidates tonight, two very excellent candidates, Gil Kelly and Greg Davis. Any thoughts or comments or motions or from the board?
I guess I just add that I know Greg through the Gorge Tech Alliance, and he is everything you saw there. He's smart, eager, and works well with with groups. I haven't met Gil before, but he sounded great also. So I think it's a really tough decision.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say both applicants are excellent. To me, I think I would lean toward Greg only because of his background and business experience. I think that Gil has a ton, but it seems to most of it be focused in the planning realm, which doesn't necessarily mean that he wouldn't be an effective board member, but most of the decisions there, ones that I just kind of liked Greg's, I guess, his experience and what he brings to the table. But I think Gil's obviously incredibly, he has a huge background of experience, but I would lean toward Greg.
It's funny, I was personally leaning a little bit towards Gil because he has that high level experience that I thought would be useful in working on a governor's board. And I think he may understand the politics a little bit better and the ability to work with people at that level. But yeah.
Last comment?
Yeah, I mean, they're both excellent candidates, so it's tough for me to go one way or another. I see what Arthur's saying about kind of that working on a high level board, but I don't know. It's a tough one.
My only comment, I think they're both excellent. Very difficult to choose between the two. I would lean, I think, also towards Greg due to his experience in our local regional economy. That would be my only leaning point.
And I would just, I think Heidi's brought up a great point. I was thinking the same thing. We do have an opening on Mount Hood Economic Alliance. If the other individual is interested, we should at least reach out to them.
Okay, I generally don't like to make my opinion known, but since it's so darn close, I guess I might as well. I was probably leaning just a hair towards Gil because of the same things Arthur was saying about the experience with the state and the government and stuff. very, very impressed with both resumes. But to me, I thought Gil was just a little bit more in line with what I was looking for. So, but either way, like you said, whoever we get, I think hopefully the other one might be interested in that other. Do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, did you sort of went right down the middle, didn't you?
Yeah,
So we have two and a half.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like they're both highly qualified. So I'm not a lot of help right now.
Well, I hope whoever we choose, we can do it unanimously, because it sounds like all of us would be perfectly happy with either of them. I think it's Les's choice, isn't it?
Yeah, Les, go ahead, make a motion.
Oh, come on. What you guys all had leanings, so I think it makes more sense for one of you to make the motion.
Well, Bob, could you refresh, what is the Mount Hood Economic Alliance? And maybe we could think about, maybe one would be more appropriate for that position.
Yeah, it's just a loan board. You know, it's a smaller loan board than OIB, and it's a local appointment. It's the Clackamas County, Wasco County, and Hood River County. I think it's supposed to focus mostly on the scenic area. It's where its business is located in that area. But yeah, it's just a smaller pool of money and a little bit more informal, and it's our appointment, not a recommendation to the governor. So they're different. And I don't know that either of these individuals would be interested in that, I guess. So I think just assuming that. But yeah, I mean, there isn't. I'd love to have either one on that as well.
All right, I'm going to make a motion. I move that we appoint Gil Kelly to the position.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Benton?
No.
Commissioner Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, Gil Kelly will be our recommendation to the state for the Oregon Investment Board. And again, excellent candidates both. Greg Davis, tremendous candidate. So tough decision. Next up is our Planning Commission appointment. Appointment of one of the interviewed volunteers to Planning Commission District 1 seat. We had one withdrawal and two people that we interviewed, Leticia, Valle, Moretti, and Kathleen Sanders. Any comments or by the commissioners?
Again, both good candidates, and I was excited to see two women apply for the position. I'm going to, Wolfie, are you ready for a motion, or you just want comments first, Chair?
Hello?
Mike, we don't hear you, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, you can make a motion if you like.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Leticia Valle Moretti as our District 1 Planning Commissioner.
Second.
Second, okay. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Any commissioners have any discussion they'd like to discuss at this time on the proposal?
Yeah, I'll just say I like the fact that there's Leticia has been active on boards and kind of moving our way through learning more about the community and how community functions through working on boards. And so it's nice to see that progression. And I think that she's just a strong candidate for the position.
And I can add that I work with Letty on the Columbia River Highway Advisory Commission, and she is everything that you saw in her interview. I thought her interview was great, and she is everything that you saw there. So I think she will be a very good addition to the Planning Commission. But I thought that Kathleen also, I'd love to see her on the Planning Commission. So I'm hoping we get another opening soon and can put her on.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree also. It was nice to see that. That was nice.
You're cutting out, Bob.
Nope, sorry. No, yeah, thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Okay. Ready for the roll call? Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin,
Yes.
Mr. Babbitts,
Yes.
Mr. Perkins.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Again, two terrific candidates, very good candidates. Kathleen, I hope keeps her ears open for other opportunities and doesn't just quit with this one. A lot of people apply for things and don't get it the first time, and the second or third time, then people are ready for them and they get on there. So I hope she keeps trying. Leticia, welcome. Welcome to the Hood County Planning Commission.
And if I could just thank staff for, I know that they had to do a fair amount of work to get the word out on this one and to raise some candidates, and boy, they really did a great job.
Okay, thank you. Give me just a second, please. Okay, next up is the county's ordinance amendments concerning permit timelines and extensions. Recommendations: conduct the first reading, confirm the hearing date. Before we go any further, I assume the Board of Commissioners have looked at the proposed changes, and I've learned from past experience. I want to know if you have any distinct problems with what's being proposed before we move on with a motion.
So I had a bunch of questions, but I asked Eric and he was able to straighten it out and clear me up. So I now understand how it works and I feel much better.
I would just disclose actually that I have a potential conflict of interest just based on the fact that I have approvals that may get extensions. None as specific as the last one.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, could we just clarify, Bob, you do not have any existing applications, is that correct?
No, I do. I have approvals that exist currently that could be that could apply for an extension. That's what I'm disclosing. Not specific though. I mean, before it was a specific approval that was being litigated. This one, or I guess quasi litigated.
But do you have any reason to suspect that you will be applying for extensions on any of these?
I don't know. I mean, that's the whole, maybe. That's why I disclosed the potential conflict.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing that, I'm looking for approval of first reading of ordinance titled Ordinance Amending Articles 1, 3, 4, 18, and 56 of the Hood River County Zoning Ordinance concerning permit timelines and extensions.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded for the first reading of the ordinance amending articles 1, 3, 4, 18, and 56 of the Hood River County zoning ordinance concerning permitted timelines and extensions. This time I'll open it up. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. No, you're good. I got ahead of myself.
This time I'll open it up to Eric to give. Yeah, we kind of got a new procedure that we're trying to go through on these things, so I'm trying to get it right.
No, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Eric, this time I'll let you give information. Present the ordinance.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as part of your work session at the last meeting on April 19th, you expressed general support of the proposed changes, but did request that a portion of the draft ordinance be amended to allow an opportunity for a second or additional extension in the case of an extraordinary event. And so in response, staff worked with County Land Use Council, and section 1.130C was added to the draft ordinance to provide a potential path to consider such extraordinary events. And what these changes propose are that first of all, such a request would be presented before the board and would go through a public hearing before the board. To be eligible, the applicant would first have to demonstrate that they continue to meet the requirements of their initial extension, such as submitting the request in a timely manner and identifying the reasons causing the delay that were outside of their control, and demonstrating that the criteria for the original decision have not changed. In addition to that, the applicant would also have to demonstrate that the additional extension is either based on one of three factors. One, a delay in obtaining a state or federal permit that is tied to the application. Second, a third-party lawsuit outside of the normal land use appeal process. Or three, an act of God resulting in a state or federal emergency declaration. If such a request were approved, the board would then identify the circumstances that will cause the qualifying event to end. The board indicated as part of your discussion that you wanted some flexibility in that, and realized that an event may take 3 months or it may take 3 years. And so what is proposed would be that the board would identify what action would, or what event would, or what action would cause the event to end, and would identify that as part of their final decision. And then once that happens, the applicant would be given an additional 90 days to finalize their permit by either submitting a complete building permit application for final planning and building approval, or establishing the allowed use as allowed by their permit. So hopefully the board finds these additional changes fitting to address your desire to provide this additional extension opportunity. Staff would recommend that you adopt the ordinances as proposed and have a second reading and set a public hearing for June 21st. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Eric. Good job. Questions, comments, commissioners?
So as I understand it, what this is adopting is a 3 plus a 2, and then in extremely rare situations, which we don't know if we've had one before, a possibility of basically suspending the clock and suspending expiration, and then 90 days at the end of whatever extraordinary event happens. And that seems like a very reasonable, that should be more than enough for any reasonable set of circumstances that I could foresee. So I like this.
I think it works. Yeah, I think I would agree. I think that one thing that's a little frustrating about the whole process is that it's been kind of pointed out that the situation with Apollo was this intent to perpetually extend when it was not at all. The issue was the circular this inability to not be an appeal ever because of these chain appeals. And so I think it's a little frustrating for me that at the end of the day, an applicant now is being negatively impacted or losing the ability to have that flexibility to extend, not because of Apollo's lack of a desire to move forward, but because of the unfortunate structure of Hood River County's code at the time that was happening. So I just want to point it out that I don't think there should be a fear of applicants continuing to perpetually extend their applications, because that wasn't the intent, I can say, from being in that position. And so I think that it's a little frustrating. The net of this is a reduction in that flexibility. That's a little frustrating to me, but I don't think that I would agree. I think 99% of the time this is going to work. And so it's, I think it's good. I would like to make a suggestion. In 1A, it says delay in obtaining a state or federal permit. And I was wondering if we could change that to delay in obtaining a state or federal permit or approval, just because I know how hung up on words folks get when they're going through these through the process of appealing. And so, and how important it is to have some flexibility in there. So I think that would be the only addition I would like to see added. And I don't know if that materially changes anything. I'm assuming we can make that change without having to have another reading, but I'm not sure.
I would concur. I think that would be good clarity, because sometimes it's not necessarily a permit. It's an approval of some type. So yeah, I think that makes sense.
Eric, comment on that?
No, that sounds like good wordsmithing, good change.
Any other discussion by the board?
I just have a question for Commissioner Benton. I'm a little, just to follow your logic, it seems, are you saying that the certainty to the process that is created through this set of rules is beneficial, and that's why you support it? Because you said you don't like the shorter period because you don't like the definite amount of time, but it creates a certainty. So are you saying that those balance?
No, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is I think that they don't. I mean, I think that the intent of Hood River County was to not create the situation that Apollo got stuck in. That was just kind of, you know what I mean? And so I think the fix to the code should be maybe exclusively to that. I think what I do like about this is extending that approval is beneficial to the planning department, in that they don't have to process perhaps as many. We don't have to go through the process as many times. That's beneficial. But the fact that, yeah, like you said, the fact that we're putting an end date on this is a little frustrating, because that, like I said, there was never the intent to perpetually extend. It just was a product of the way the code was manipulated. So.
Well, clearly we needed to, I'm sorry, clearly we needed to do something to take that loop out.
Absolutely. That I agree with. The frustration I have, and it's not a huge frustration. I mean, I get it. I do think there's value in people knowing that an approval is good for an amount of time. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it does feel a little bit like an applicant now is being punished, and the reason why would be this example that will be given that, well, here's what happened in this situation with Apollo Landholding when they continually extended, and that's not what actually happened. So anyway, that's my frustration that I'm just airing, but I'm willing to move forward. I think we've put together, this is better code than we had before, and from a county commissioner standpoint, I think that's really valuable to the community.
Other comments? Ready for the vote? Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes.
Mr. Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The first reading of the ordinance amending Articles 1, 3, 4, 18, and 56 of the Hood River County zoning ordinance concerning permit timelines and extensions has been approved as amended. The second reading will be held on June 21st. And at that time, we'll have the public welcome to make comments and information given as well. That's June 21st, 6 p.m. or soon thereafter as we can. Okay. Good to go, Eric?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Next up, under new business administration, letter of support for House Bill 3049. Authorized chair to sign a letter of support on behalf of Hood River County supporting HB 3049. Jeff, any information on that?
Just by way of background, this was in front of the commissioners for a discussion. Public Works Director Michael Dewan explained this bill. He had indicated at the time that it was possible that a letter of support for this bill may be requested by AOC. I don't think neither he nor I thought it would be this quick, but the request did come from AOC. and Michael DeWan then requested that this be put in front of the commissioners. The bill, you may recall, allows the county to charge a permit fee for utilities, utility permits within the right-of-way. Doesn't require it, doesn't set the fee, it just allows counties to do it. And then additionally, it provides a means for counties to recover certain costs incurred due to project delays when utilities are not relocated. Those are the two primary things. I don't know if Michael's still on, so he could answer questions or not. He is. So he's still on. If you have questions, he probably can answer them.
Any questions, commissioners?
It seems eminently reasonable to me.
Michael, anything you want to add on that?
No, not at this time. I think Jeff summarized it pretty much. And yes, in fact, I didn't expect a letter to be requested and submitted so quickly, but I'd appreciate your consideration.
Any other comments by board members? Do we have a motion?
I can make, excuse me, I can make the motion that we authorize Chair Oates to sign the letter in support of HB 3049 as requested.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Babbitt, seconded by Commissioner Benton, that we approve their recommendation or authorize Chair Oates to sign a letter of support on behalf of Hood River County for supporting HB 3049. Any further discussion?
I'll be abstaining. It's
okay. I understand.
A little too tangled for me.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. I will be signing a letter of support on behalf of Hood River County supporting HB 3049. Next up is amendment to intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation.
I would be happy to provide any information from FID's side, but I'll be abstaining from this vote as well. So.
Okay. Jeff, information on this?
Sure, I have a feeling Commissioner Perkins probably knows this item of business better than myself. I don't know if Doug is on. Doug is on, so you know this actually has been a really entangled situation, and the agenda request form does a magnificent job of stating something much more simply than it has been actually to get done. So with that, I'm going to let Doug talk about it because he's far more familiar with it than I am.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yes. This was an agreement that was, the original portion of the agreement started in 2009. And then over a period of probably another 4 or 5 years, there was many amendments and changes to that original agreement. And in the process of all that, the county lost track of all the players that were located on the tower. It happened to be Farmers Irrigation District was left off any of the changes. And so as we began to move things from the existing tower that we started with was a US cellular tower. Basically the state, Oregon Department of Transportation constructed a new tower right beside the original tower, and pretty much all the agency equipment ended up on the new state tower. And that was the intent, but nobody realized Farmers Irrigation's antenna was still on the US cell tower, and so they were not included in the agreement. And so this really just fixes that and gets them added back in so they can locate and move their equipment over to the new state tower. And with that, that could also help in our negotiations just to clean things up when we go to renegotiate our lease agreement with US Cellular. Any other questions?
Thank you, Doug. Have a motion?
This is Karen. I move to approve the 4th Amendment to the Intergovernmental Agreement #2 with Oregon Department of Transportation to be signed by the county administrator relating to the communication tower on county forest land to correct the omission of Farmers Irrigation District authorized use from the IGA in 2009.
Thank you, Karen.
I will second that.
Been moved by Commissioner Joplin, seconded by Commissioner Babbitts. We approve the intergovernmental agreement change with the Oregon Department of Transportation. Any other discussion? Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins, did you abstain yet?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. And the chair votes yes. Okay, we agreed to the intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation amendment. Thank you.
Thank you for all the work on that. It was a bit of a process.
Okay. Next up, under administration is the strategic planning goals that we have all decided on, but haven't officially concurred and approved here in a meeting. So Jeff wanted to bring those up tonight, make sure that we were all on board and have a motion to approve the goals as we set up in our strategic planning. Jeff, any comments or information at this point?
The only thing that I would add is that through the budget process, the budget committee approved funding for many of these goals, and we at a staff level have the ability to move forward in some of these areas and get some things accomplished consistent with these goals, which is exciting.
Any questions, comments, commissioners?
One other thing I would probably say is when we finish the schedule, I believe that it was requested that we update the board quarterly on these, which we plan to do. Having said that, you'll probably get some redundancy because the departments that are working in these areas will include progress reports on their quarterly reports as well. So if that is your recollection, that is staff's recollection as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I ask a question about 5.3? So 5.3 is the forest management plan, and it talks about completing the 10-year forest management plan, and then in the action notes, there's a note concerning enhancing the recreational trail piece of the plan. So I do remember we had quite an active discussion about desire to update the part of the management plan that relates to recreational uses of the forests. So I'm glad to see that made it in there. What I'm not following is, if Steph can help me understand, so is this 10-year management plan update, is this something that's in process now that has a fixed date, or is it something that's about to be started, or where are we in this cycle?
I believe that is referring to, at least in part, the inventory that is underway and has been underway. I would have to either check with Doug if he's left, or get the answer for the commissioners in terms of, I don't actually remember where we are in terms of that being done. I know it's not complete. I know it's been started. I think this may be year 3 or so. but I can't remember when it will be done.
I guess my point is that I was expecting from the discussion that we were having that this is an issue that would be discussed in the next year, 2 to 3, as opposed to 7 years from now. And I'm not sure what this is saying. So if you could help clarify that, I appreciate it.
I would agree with what you just said. It's a discussion that will need to occur year 1, 2, or 3.
Perfect. And I'm satisfied.
Any other questions or discussion, commissioners? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the goals as provided.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I'll just observe, I'm always impressed that people can take such an amorphous discussion and hammer it into something that's actually tangible like this. So good work.
Yeah, I know you like this kind of stuff, don't you, Arthur? You like it when a plan comes together. Yeah, so do I. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes.
Mr. Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Benton?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, we've approved our strategic plan goals from our strategic planning that took place this winter and spring. Next up, we're going to go into executive session under ORS 192.6602D labor negotiations and possibly ORS 192.6602H current litigation. I'd like to make the announcement that it's possible we will come back out of executive session and go back into regular session if we feel we need to make any more decisions at that time. No decisions will be made in executive session. So at this time, Heidi, I'll give you a few minutes to set us up for executive session.
All right, thank you, Chair. There's several citizens that are on the line. If you would please disconnect. I'll give you a few moments to do that. Otherwise, I'll remove you from the meeting. Thank you.
Heidi, I'm going to take us out of executive session now and open it back up to business meeting.
Mr. Chair, I've got a really random request in regular session when we get back.
Okay.
Chair Rose, we're ready whenever you are. We're recording again.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. This time I'm going to reopen the business meeting for Hood River County Board of Commissioners for May 17th, 2021. Do we have a motion from the commissioners?
I'm trying to find it. Does someone know the page number?
One of two.
I'm not following you. It's not in the regular packet?
Okay.
Not in the packet. I think we may need Lisa.
I can do it.
Oh, okay.
I can do it. This is Chair Oates. I'm going to move that the Hood River County Board of Commissioners delegate to County Council authority to negotiate an agreement with the local governments that have already filed opioid litigation on behalf of the Oregon litigating counties that will require settlement funds to be paid directly to local governments and not pass through the state of Oregon.
I'm pretty sure that you can't make a motion, but I'd be happy to make the motion you just said.
Actually, I can according
okay,
to our charter. It's weird, I know, but that's what our charter
Excellent.
says.
I'll second you then.
Oh, good.
Okay, it's been moved by Chair Oates, seconded by Mr. Babbitts, that we make the motion to that I just stated. Any discussion? Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Joplin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Babbitts?
Yes. Chair
votes yes. Now, Mr. Benton, did you have something you wanted to ask or say?
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to everybody. And I got a little caught off guard when you ran through the vote on Mr. Gil Kelly for our recommendation to the governor. And considering that is a recommendation, I'd like us to reconsider and revote on that if everybody's in agreement to make that unanimous.
So you're making a motion to reconsider?
Yeah, make a motion to reconsider the vote on Mr. Gil Kelly.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Babbitts,
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Do we have a new motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend Gil Kelly to the OIB board.
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Joplin,
Yes.
Mr. Perkins,
Yes.
Mr. Babbitts,
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Sorry about that. I just
Yeah.
felt like that would be more appropriate to be unanimous.
Good job, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Any further discussion from the commissioners? Jeff, anything else for the good of the order?
Might get you a bonus for having this done by 7:30.
Good. I want Bob to come help me change sprinklers.
Oh,
That's
I
my
love that one.
bonus.
As soon as I
Okay.
get done with mine, I'm headed your way.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's gonna be dark. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I thought it was a good meeting. A little bit tough to follow everything right now and then. I hope I got through it okay. But anyway, thanks for everybody chipping in. And Jeff, thank you. Heidi, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next time. I'll close the meeting for Hood River County at this time.